And I did make it on time, or I guess pretty close if I didn't make it.
No,
Man, oh man.
right on time.
Busy morning for me. Busy morning. How you doing, Jeffrey?
Doing good. Doing good.
I see we got a few people already over in the chat. It'll migrate over here to the live for me in just a minute. I see we got a few people already. That would be me. That would be me, folks. My mistake. All right. Yeah, James is in here. J Rod Photo Art. Stuart's in here. Mike Farwell's in here. All right. All right. We'll let a few more people jump in, and then we'll kick off the discussion. As always, I try to pick a topic, and we'll stick to that for a few minutes, and then it'll be off to the races with whatever anybody wants to talk about, because that's what this is. It's a big round table for you to discuss what's really important to you guys in the chat. Good afternoon, Ray. How you doing? Good. How you doing? Yeah, I was just telling Jeffrey before we went live. My stepson wanted. Well, he had a videographer set up. He had a location that he'd paid for, and is shooting a new spoken word video. Well, anyway, he called me last night and he said the guy can't make it. Can you fill in? So I'm kind of rushing. I had to rush home after we finished up shooting video, and I hope I captured what he wanted because it was just off the cuff for me. They had it well choreographed, but I was a fill-in this morning, so I was just doing my best to give him what he wanted. And Jeffrey, you were out shooting too this morning, right?
Yeah, went out shooting. It was all the birds decided that they wanted to migrate towards the opposite side of the pond, and could not. Too far away. Too far away.
You got my luck, man. You know, I go out to shoot, and the sun decides that day it's going to flip sides. It's going to rise in the east or rise in the west and set in the east. I mean, that's how my luck goes. I know it's not possible, people. I'm trying to be funny, and I know I'm not.
I thought it was good.
Thanks, J Rod. All right. So the topic today, we already have 10 people in viewing. So let's just kick it off. The topic that I picked is something that I've been thinking about for a while. I know you guys have heard me rant about it a little bit before. I'm not all about, art is the reason for photography. I don't mean that at all. But are we losing the art in photography because we're so technical nowadays? And all we want to do is nitpick photos, whether we like it or not. It just seems that we as photographers have to throw some kind of a critique in there. And sometimes I believe it's just to show our expertise. Look how smart I am. I caught this and I caught that in the photo. So my question to the audience is, who do you shoot for? Do you shoot for yourself? Do you shoot for a particular audience or client? Or do you shoot for other photographers? Because I feel like a lot of times we're measuring ourselves against other photographers, even when we like something that we did. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but I thought I'd throw it out there and let everybody chime in. I got a photo up here on the screen. It's shot through a screen door. There's nothing technically correct about it, but I liked it, and the couple that I shot loved it. I know you can't see it very well, but it's just one of those things. I've said before, I either like a photo or don't like it in the first couple of seconds of looking at it. And if I want to stare at it, then obviously it's a like for me. It may not be something everybody else likes, but that's how I evaluate the photo. Is I like it and I want to continue to look at it, stare at it, and pick it apart. I mean, with my eyes, or I don't care about it. Even if it's technically correct, it's like, okay, that's technically correct. Everything, they met all the principles of photography, but it just doesn't do anything for me. So I thought I'd throw it out there, ask you guys. Long Rider's in here.
Hello, everybody.
Alan Barnes, Hero Shots. All right, man. J Rod, dropped a comment. He said, I shoot for me and I strive to find a view and get a picture that you don't normally see. Makes me smile when you smile.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. That's the way I feel as well, James. I have photos that probably don't resonate with anybody but me, but there's something about it that I like, and I'm happy with it. And I'm happy if anybody sees it or if anybody wants to critique it. But my first question when people critique is, do you like it or no? And if you like it, then no critique needed because it met my standards when I posted it. Um, Alan Barnes from Kent. How's the weather over there today, Alan?
It's probably going to say cloudy as usual.
Ray says he shoots for himself, then posts them on Instagram. If other people like them, that's a bonus. That's a great attitude, and I agree with you, Ray. But we do our photo reviews all the time, and I brought it up the other night. There are people that just detest um, photos of animals in a zoo. I don't understand that because most of us don't have money to, jump on a plane and go to the African continent or to India to shoot Bengal tigers or whatever. We have to take what we have available. And I think they can still be good photos. I don't want to get the wildlife people in an uproar because I was told be careful with that. I'm bringing this up.
Well, I think it's if you're not working for a client and you're not doing it for money, then really at that point the only person you need to please is yourself.
Yeah.
If you have a paid client, then you have to make sure you do what the client wants, and it may not even be your normal way you would take a picture, but you're getting paid to do it the way the client wants to. But when it's just you got to make yourself happy, and like was already stated, if somebody else likes it, it is truly a bonus, and that's the best way to look
I
at
guess
it.
I have to consider that as well, Jeffrey. You're right. There are people that shoot professionally, and I understand that, and they have a client base that expects a certain product from them, and I understand that. Yeah, 100%. Maz, man, good to see you, man. Busy day. I know what you mean. I started out busy myself this morning and trying to catch up, but I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a wonderful day, buddy. Um, uh, so, James, grabbing your comment here, would you agree that most people do not critique the technical aspect of any photo? They look, they like, they say cool and move on. Yeah, absolutely. That's what most people do. Just your regular Joe, your audience on Facebook, as hokey as this sounds, but people that follow you on Facebook, if you post a photo, you know, uh, you may get two or 300 likes on. I mean, sometimes people just like it, but yet you post it in front of a bunch of photographers and they seem to want to find something wrong with it. Am I being too nitpicky here?
That's like the movie critic mentality. If you're considered a movie critic, then if you don't criticize, then you're not a movie critic, right? If every movie
Yeah.
you love it, then you're not doing your job. Or if you have a house inspector inspect a house for you, if they don't find something wrong, you're like, well, what did I pay you for if you didn't find something wrong? So it's kind of like that mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, Stuart. I try to think out of the box too. I want to find something different. Use light, whether it's natural light or artificial light, differently. I mean, that's kind of the goal for me, to just have fun and experiment. And sometimes you stumble upon something. I did the same thing shooting motocross. All the photographers know all the spots that you need to be standing for the typical photos that come out of any race or but I would always seek out some place that there weren't photographers. And most of the time you realize, well, they're right. There's a reason nobody's over here in this location. But there are plenty of others that I found that nobody else shot from. And it just gave a different angle, different aspect. And I don't know. That's kind of the fun of photography too, is trying to find something different. It's hard to do that nowadays with as many photographers there are out there. Cold in Kent, Alan says. Well, today it's warm here. I don't know what's going on. The weather's weird.
I think
Uh,
Andy Miller hit the nail on the head with the zoos. Is play a central role in conservation and rebreeding programs. If you didn't have zoos, you wouldn't have rhinos left anymore. You wouldn't have certain lions and tigers left anymore. You wouldn't,
no,
So it's there are those that seem to have it out for zoos, and I won't name names. We could all guess who that might be, but um, if you didn't have it, if people don't see whether it be an aquarium or a zoo, that's the first exposure that many people have to anything that lives in any other part of the world. And if you don't know what it is, then you're never going to care whether it's protected or not, because you don't have any attachment to it. If you go and you see it in a zoo and you say, man, that was the neatest thing I ever saw, and then you hear that there's a problem with that species of animal, you may get involved and do something good. But if you've never heard of it, you've never seen it, then you don't
yeah.
care.
Hmm.
So, I mean, they're there. The pluses are outweigh the minuses, in my opinion.
Yeah, right. There ain't many elephants or tigers in Northumberland. Oh, hey, James. Thanks for jumping in at lunch hour, buddy. It's good to see you. Love your eagle pics, man. Looking forward to even more of them. Um, yeah, I love the song too, Long Rider. Mosman's talking about it. I thought it was a hit, man. You are one creative person, I'll tell you. Play the guitar, sing, compose. If you could only take a photo that was decent, though. Just kidding, brother. Just kidding. Mm.
It's always good to have another career to fall back on, right?
Yeah. This is true too. Facebook is where a lot of people love your photos, and I tell people that think about hey, I'm thinking about becoming a professional photographer, shooting whatever weddings, headshots, families, or whatever. I always caution them before you do. This is where you do need some critique from photographers, just to get just to run a check on yourself, because family will always love your photos. Other than my wife, she'll tell me flat out, no, I don't like that. But family will always love your photos. Friends will always love your photos, whether they're any good or not. So you got to be careful. So you're right. Facebook is a place to go get a lot of likes. I probably shouldn't have used that as an example. Um, mm,
Yeah, Andy again
um,
talks about the vulture rebreeding program. That was a big thing in India,
yeah.
where pretty much all the vultures were gone just because of what he said here, using poison meat to kill lions, and then vultures eat the meat, and then they're all dead, and they're your garbage disposal system. You wipe out the vultures, and you got
Yep.
diseased animals everywhere that you don't know how to get rid of or where to put them. So they learned
Yep.
their lesson, and now things are turning around. So you can't only mess with nature so much, and it comes back to haunt you.
Yep. Yep. Ray says photographers are too wound up in the mechanics and technology of photography and not the art of photography. And I'll agree with you, Ray, for the most part. It doesn't mean everybody, so I'm not lumping everybody into that. But it just seems that that is the case. Um, and something can be just absolutely absurd to me, maybe liked by 1,000 people. And that's the whole point. When I say art, I'm talking all, possible art within photography. Some things just don't fit a genre. It's somebody's come up with it themselves, and eventually it becomes a hit. And Joel Grimes is an example of that. When Joel Grimes started um, his business, he started the compositing. Everybody was just ragging on him, and professional photographers didn't care for him, and it wasn't right. It's not photography. It's not fair. It's not whatever. Well, evidently he stumbled upon something that was big, because so many big companies out there hired him to do their ads and promos based on his gritty composite work. And then all of a sudden, everybody loved him. because he was a financial success. Now, maybe that's not the right term to use, but he was very popular. Uh, so when you stumble across something new, I think you need to be ready to take a hit because everybody's set in their way. It seems like in the photography community, and the other thing is, I know there are a lot of pros here, and I thank you guys for being in here as well. But it seems like the only people that can have a voice, I'm not saying they're the only ones that do, but can have a voice, are pros, and sometimes, especially in the big YouTube channels, some of them are pros. I'm just throwing that out there. They say they're pros. Okay, they're pros. And it seems like they're the only ones that can have an opinion. I'm not going to get into gear and everything, but that's really where they weigh in. All right.
I mean, when it comes to camera technology, the bottom line is it doesn't matter whether you're shooting, film, a 50s camera, a modern camera. If it represents, if it gives you what you want for your technique and what you want to show, that's all
Yeah.
that matters. It doesn't matter who makes it or whether it's new or whether it's old or anything. It just doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So some people would say you're contradicting yourself, Chuck, because you're talking about just making art. You can make art with anything, any camera. You can do it with film. You can do it with, a low budget nothing camera like a D3000. When they came out, or a D5000, and you're absolutely right. But and I agree with that 100%. Actually, those cameras are probably better for making art because you feel like I'm going to be left in the dirt trying to shoot birds. Not that you can't. Don't anybody shoot me. Um, but they still take wonderful photos, and that's fine. And it's great to experiment and whatever. But you can also want to do that, produce art that doesn't require a $5,000 camera, and still do it with a $5,000 camera just because you like the $5,000 camera.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So so we
Well,
shouldn't beat anybody up either way, a low
well,
budget
and
camera or a high budget camera.
well, and the thing is too is some people, many. I'm not a categorizer. Use the word all, but many photographers say, I want to get the image so it looks like how I see it. And realistically, there's not one camera in history that's ever been made that is as good as your eyes.
Right.
The dynamic range that you have with your eyes is far greater than any camera that you can buy.
Yeah.
So when someone says, well, you edit your pictures too much or whatever, and it's like, well, I could argue I'm making it look like how I saw it with these. The camera
Yep.
did not capture it the way I saw it with these eyes.
Right.
And that's what I try to do. I try to make it look like how I see it, not necessarily how the camera interprets it.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna, you're right, and then I'm gonna put my tweak on it, just because I want it warm for this photo, or I want it cooler for this photo, or whatever. Saturation, desat. It's just fun to experiment and play with it. Sometimes you stumble across, like I said, something that's really unique, and it surprises you. But it's the exposure is not correct, and people are going to talk about that. Your white balance, that's always going to be when everybody wants to bring up white balance is off. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. One, I like it this way, or two, I didn't, I didn't care to change it or whatever because I'm okay with it looking like this. Or the other is noise. Sometimes noise makes a photo, in my opinion. So that's why I'm not wrapped around the axle on noise. Even though I use Topaz Raw or whatever it is, Topaz
Denoise.
Yeah, from time to time, I'll do that. But anyway, and I don't want to drag this on if nobody wants to discuss it. That's fine. Just had to break the ice somehow.
Okay, Long Rider always picks on me about my Nikon signs not being even the gap away from the wall. And I'm going to explain why that's not possible, because on one wall, I have a shelf that runs on the side. So I can't put that sign closer to the wall because I have a shelf in the way. So that's why it's out of balance. Unless I remove that shelf, I have no way of fixing that. So it's always going to look a little odd. But then again, I'm a little odd, so myself, so it kind of fits me. You know what I'm saying?
You're right, Stuart. Your mom always loves your photos. You're absolutely right. If you want a positive critique on any photo you take, go to mom. Mom will love it.
Yeah. And the heads could be chopped off, the legs could be chopped off. It didn't matter. Oh, that's a great shot.
Well, that wouldn't bother my poor mother because that's exactly how she took photos. I said, Mom, if you can't see it in the viewfinder, that little thing you look through, it won't be in the picture. But I don't know. It was hard for her to understand that or something. Here you go. This is an interesting comment too. Very rarely did I like my photos. You know what? I can say the same thing, Robert. When I'm shooting, if somebody wants me to shoot, I'm an absolute perfectionist, and it's never good enough. You know, I look at it, I tweak it, I start over. My wife will say, "Well, what's wrong? Why are you agonizing over this?" I said, "Well, it's just not good." And she looked at the phone. She says, "It looks great. What's wrong with it?" And sometimes we got to remove ourselves from this pursuit for perfection, because I don't think we can really hit perfection. We can hit something, we can run upon something that's really nice or whatever, but the only real way to do it is to have your client standing looking over your shoulder going, "Stop right there. That's what I want."
Well,
You sure you want to look green in the photo? I love it. Okay.
photographers are their own worst enemy, myself
Yeah.
included. I take
Yeah.
a picture that in my mind, I'm saying, yeah, that's pretty good. And then the first thing that pops in my head is, it's going to be better the next time.
Yeah.
You know?
Always. Yeah.
I mean, you're always looking to be that perfectionist,
Yeah.
and perfection rarely comes, but it's better to always want to do better. I mean, you gotta have a goal and keep setting the bar higher all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Greg, cut it out, man. I've seen your work. It's great. Oh man. J Rod says bird and flight. Um, the art is the subject, and it's a skill of the photographer to capture the art. I will go along with that somewhat, J Rod. But I'm really, I guess, I'm looking at you know, there's so many genres where there are standards set by the photographer community as to how it must look, and the pose, and you name it, yada yada yada. Um, so I would agree with that, in the fact that if you find something that's unique and nobody else has actually posted, because there are certain poses and things like that everybody says, oh well, it's looking away or it's whatever. I don't know. And I think sometimes that makes it art, though, when it still resonates. I don't know how to explain myself. So you all just disregard all I said.
Well, when we've had the photo review, and I'm going to forget, you'll remember who it is, but that one of the earlier shows when we had the picture that the gentleman took of the inside of the gas station.
Mark Weston, yes.
Okay. Now, someone would look at that picture and think, oh, that was taken 50 years ago. And that was such a nice shot, because it was like, the more you looked, the more you found something that
Yes.
grabbed your eye and told another part of the story.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's rare to see that kind of work nowadays. And that was a wonderful shot. I mean, we must have talked about it for 40 minutes. I think that was great.
Yeah. It put us way behind, but we couldn't quit looking at it. And we kept
Yeah.
finding things like you said. And to me, that's a great photo. I mean, it's a photo of what? It's just a great photo that you can sit and dig and look, like you said. And yeah. So they don't always have to be, very colorful, or, they can just be fun to look at. And that was one of those photos. Hey, good luck on that, Stuart. I hope, you got to let us know. You got to keep us up to date on how that goes. I'd love to see your coffee table book. I thought about doing that. I talked about it on one of the streams. I've thought for a long time I'd like to shoot barns down in the South, and they're going away so quick. I may have missed my opportunity. you know, who else wants to see a barn? Not many people, but I do. And I'd like to have captured them, at least in photos. Yeah, James loved coffee table books and books in general. Yeah. Um, man, I got all kinds of
Yeah,
things
the
going on
problem
on
I
my
have
phone.
with I did a book for myself. Well, I've done two books, and they're in the house, and someday the kids will have them. But I gave one as a gift to a friend a couple years ago for Christmas. But the hard part is if you really want to mass produce it, like I got like version one behind me here that I did, and I had a few typos here and there after the fact. I had to get it done by a certain time, or I wasn't going to get my 50% off getting it done. So I rushed it and I made a few mistakes, but I'd like to redo it again and add some more information to it and some more pages to it and publish it myself. But it's just too hard
So,
to
does
find a way
anybody?
you could do it and have it cost effective. I mean, people do those what do you call it, Kickstarter programs and raise money for paying for it, but that's the only way you could do it. I don't have the bucks to run off a you know five
So,
thousand copy order or something.
does anybody out there have a coffee table book or some kind of a book photo book that you put together? I'd like to know. I'd like to check it out. Inspire me, man. Inspire me to actually get off my behind and get this done. I really want to do that barn book. I know it sounds crazy, but then again, it's me. So,
No, I
um,
like old barns, old gas stations, old cars on farms, old farm equipment, that kind of stuff. That's neat stuff to take pictures of.
and James, you're right. My wife and I were talking about this last night because she has no idea what I'm talking about when I say I want to shoot a particular whatever, and I can see the final photo in my mind before I even begin. She says, "Well, that doesn't make sense." She's analytical, obviously, and it just doesn't make sense. But I may not obtain what I want. The vision that I have in my head of what I'm trying to shoot, but I know what I want before I even begin. I can see the picture, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're creative, are like that. You see the photo before you ever snap the shutter. So, but that just eluded her. I don't understand. How can that be?
Well, I drive my spouse crazy because if we take a drive, say we have to go somewhere and it's an hour drive or 2 hour drive or whatever, throughout the whole drive, I'll be like driving and I'll say, "Did you see that? Did you see
Yeah.
that?" And
Hmm.
she'll say, "What? Oh, didn't you see that neat old car over there next to the barn?" She'll go, "No, I didn't see no car next to a barn." I
Hmm.
go, "Never mind." It's like you're tuned to see all these things, and if you're not someone that's taking pictures, reality is you just don't see them. You don't
Yep.
see them. If you do it all the time, it's like you drive for 2 or 4 hours, you probably end up seeing at least 50 things that if you had time, you would stop and try to take a
Yep.
picture of it.
Yep. I agree. And Sleek Images Photography says art, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You're absolutely right. And so, with that said, there are a lot of people of like mind that may enjoy what you consider art, but there are plenty of critics out there that will tear it down or tear it up before you can even get to the people that like it. And sometimes that's a shame. And I don't know. I just wanted to talk about this too, so that maybe we can get some more. Maybe somebody can convince me that I'm too cynical when I think about this. I just find often that people make comments, especially photographers in photography circles or photographer circles, sometimes pick on a photo that I really like, and it's not technically correct or whatever. And everybody's giving them down the road and punishing the poor person, and the poor person either is just learning or they like what they took. Well, the funny thing is I like it too. It seems like you see it too often. All right, I quit being so cynical and say that's not the case. Hmm.
Well, like I go to a bookstore, you'll find books sometimes of, let's say, a photographer that traveled with a band for many years or whatever and did a lot of photos for a particular band, and then eventually they come out with one or two books showing behind the scenes photos of the band, and those are always neat things to look at. But there's
Mhm.
some people just have unique opportunities in their chosen genre of photography to eventually have the good stuff to put in a book.
Andy Miller, just rebrand the noise as grain and you'll be golden. You know, that brings up a good point too. I'm glad you're jogging my memory here, all you guys with your comments. Um, Most people that look at a photo will never look at it at 200%. Most people that look, I'm talking just normal people. Well, maybe we're not normal if we're photographers. I'm talking just the general public. And if you're shooting for them, which is what I do, I'm not shooting for another photographer. um, I'm shooting just to be shooting. If I like it, then I'll share it, whatever. And it seems like other people, not always like it, but some will or whatever. And it could be very grainy, or I mean, there's just we just get wrapped around the axle, and we hide our pompous ways by saying, "Well, I'm just trying to help." But I don't know. Sometimes the way it's stated, like, "Oh, there's so much uh, noise in the shadow, and you've got coma going on up here in the star." My wife has no idea what that is. A night shot of the stars. She's not going to the corners and zooming in. Yeah, there's a lot of coma in that lens. What lens is it? And so I don't know.
If I'm
I guess
shooting at night in the dark, then I'm the one in a coma.
yeah. Mm. I agree with this too, J Rod. There are some old lenses, cheap lenses, and everything out there that people are starting to pick up again just for the art aspect of taking photos. I agree with that. I think it's great. Um, yeah, perfection isn't it really isn't possible, Mike. Sometimes we may run across a photo we took, and by luck we set the parameters and did the best we could, but then added luck into it, and it just becomes a phenomenal photo, at least in our eyes, and something to be proud of. Um, but you're right. Perfection, you just if you're chasing it, you're going to continue to chase it forever. Um, let's see. Oh, so Street 13 Fighter Wildlife is saying just listening in the background while I'm editing a picture. Don't let us change your editing style or anything like that, man. You do what you like. That's what's important.
I'm
Uh,
always doing that when I'm on other streams. I'm editing photos while I'm watching somebody else's stream.
yep. Ted, good to see you, brother. Ted dropped in to see us. ATR Bear. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, and you're right. So art becomes an excuse is often. Well, that's a crap photo, but um, if I desaturate it, go to black and white, crush the blacks, I can make it into something, and then it's art. uh,
Well, you know what? Your funny thing is, if you talk to a typical person and you say, "Well, what's your favorite picture?" It's probably going to be a picture that very few people will ever see, because it's going to be a personal photo of your kids growing up or something like that happened in your life, and it's never going to be on the cover of a magazine, but that's going to be the one that you care about the most.
yeah. Jeff's not going to move the shelf, Maz says. Oh man. Roy, that's a good point too, and that goes right along with this conversation. Is we have these rules, and rules are made to be broken, and everything else. But you're right. Sometimes break the rules, forcing the rule of thirds. How many people are going to do that? Because you just feel like, especially if you're a young photographer, at least this was me. You guys tell me if it was you. For me, it's just I knew that the rule of thirds was there, and I had to live by the rule of thirds. So if I couldn't compose the photo uh, in camera, in the viewfinder, I felt like, man, that would have been a great photo if I just could have used the rule of thirds. I'm not saying don't. Often it makes the photo, but you're right. A square crop too. Square crop, and I've got to where I like square crop. I did a
Yeah.
lot of that for my stepdaughter and her business, and I got to where I kind of like it. And guess what? Rule of thirds doesn't work real well in a square crop.
No, and when you're talking animals and subjects like that, sometimes you want the subject right in the dead center of your photo, which
Yeah,
violates all the rules. But
yeah,
that's what looks the best. Is
yeah.
that image of that creature in the middle of your photo?
So I would say that's what we need to do when we have a photo. I'm preaching to most people that know this or know a whole lot more than me, but just in case there are others out there that have thought about this, you know, look at the crop, play with it. Don't just go to a rule of thirds or center or whatever, or the golden rule, which I never figured out. That didn't make any sense to me. Uh, and the Dutch angle, the Dutch tilt. I'm sure you guys remember that. That was had a moment in photography too. But move it around, play with it, try it two or three different ways, and that's how I got out of the absolute rule of thirds. I still use it quite often, but there are times when it just doesn't work for the photo that I have or what I want to present. Uh,
Well,
let's see.
I took a picture one time of a bird walking through the water getting food, and I intentionally tilted my camera so the bird was on a 45. The picture was on a 45, and I showed it to somebody, and they said, "Wow, you really, gee, how did you get it to look like that?" And it's like, well, you just tilt the camera. Make it look different, do something different, make it look different, change the angle. Yeah, of course the bird is not swimming uphill, you know, but the thing is it got a lot of comments and it made people to look at it at a little extra second or two. And so
Yeah.
it broke every rule in the book, but sometimes just do it for the fun of it.
And look, I'm not saying the rules aren't good. There are, they are, but it doesn't always apply. Every rule doesn't always apply to every photo. You talk about horizons. Where should a horizon be? Here we go. We can get a conversation going here. Is it rule of thirds or is it rule of fifths? I've actually heard somebody say that the new rule is rule of fifths on the horizon.
Yeah.
Well, how does that work if everything's below the horizon? Do you have just a little bitty pinch of sky at the top? And it might work, but the point is that there are rules out there. They do work, but sometimes you just got to break them. And
Yeah.
it changes the whole dynamic of the photo. Uh, J Rod, what is the rule of thirds? Never used it. Hey, Sith, glad to see you up and in here, man. How you doing? Uh, John Hughes says I can say hello today. How you doing? How you doing? Uh, no book yet from J Rod. Yeah, please share your books, folks. Anybody that's got a book and you put together a book, a photo book, photo, not the family album, although that might be enjoyable too. Depending on if you're from a dysfunctional family like me, that's something to see. It's more a documentary than a photo book. But um, yeah, if you've got a book or if you've had one published, I'd love to know about it. But if you've got a photo book, a coffee table book, let us know. It'd be nice to see that. You may inspire somebody to actually get up and go do that. That's what we need. We need somebody to inspire us. Yeah, photo calendars. My wife likes photo calendars too. She always wants a calendar around, but she has to dig through at one of the bookstores the volumes of calendars to find the one she likes. So that's how important photography is. She's looking for the one that has the right whatever theme to it.
My wife always wants the Peanuts calendar, so those have nothing to do with photography. It's art, but it's not photography.
Yeah. I don't know how many people saw the Seinfeld episode when Kramer made a coffee table book, which is a coffee table. If you haven't seen that episode, it's pretty funny. It's a coffee table book about coffee tables. And the unique thing about it is it turns into a coffee table. Pretty genius writing there, I'll tell you. Mozman, he had a idea for a book. Let's see, started shooting some photos, designed the cover, started researching after the fact, and saw that someone beat me to it. It's hard to be original. Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, I want to shoot it. Like I said, I want to shoot the barn coffee table book. I'll have one printed just for me. And I do not believe that it's original at all. I haven't really researched it and searched through bookstores to see if there's such a book, but I'm sure there is. But that is kind of depressing in it sometimes. You go to all the trouble, you get going, you think you haven't heard anything or seen anything, and then all of a sudden something pops up and it's like, nope, somebody's already done it. Yeah, catch up on photo or on walks with the family. Yeah, I've been told to hurry it up and quit making everybody miserable because I was stopping at every tree and rock or whatever for try to catch shadows. That's been a long time ago, though. We haven't done walks in a long time.
If I
So
go to
Andy, okay, I've done 3, all for me and the victims. I gave copies to the victims. Man, is there any way we could? Is there any place online that we can go look at them, or maybe you don't want us to see them? I don't know, Andy, but I'd love to see them.
my wife hates going to like an arts and craft show. Well, she'll say, "Let's go to an arts and craft show,"
Yeah,
and then she's always like 10 booths ahead of me. Eventually, I catch up, and she says, "You always got to stop and talk to everybody." And I'm like, "Because I'm interested in their art, and I want to know, how they did something, or why, or is there a reason why they chose this particular topic to use for their art or whatever." And I talk to every single artist there, and she wants to blow through it in about 30 minutes. If it was me, I'd be there all day. But
Oh, so the challenge, Andy says the challenge needs a story, the ability to narrate. Well, then I'm out, but I can do an all picture book, I guess. It's the same when shooting videos. Now, that is so true. I understand that. Why is the purpose? And what are you trying to say? And then how many images support the story? Yeah, I guess there is. And I never looked at it that way, but you're absolutely right, Andy. I'm just going to hire somebody to narrate it for me. What I'm trying to say. And Roy, there's little beauty in photographing people's meals. There are people that actually are making money blogging that,
yeah,
taking photos of their meal. I guess it's more the uniqueness of it or the how they write, as Andy would say. Maybe they have a good story that goes along with it or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you, Roy. Oh man, Stuart, I'm doing a book on all of our top South Africa music artists. Oh, that's cool. And the next one in monochrome of backstage, what happens there? Man, now that sounds like a cool book. That sounds interesting. I mean, and with the images that you get for all these artists, because man, I know you're talking about doing it in monochrome or doing some in monochrome, but man, artists are pretty good at colorful clothing and costumes, make great photos. So you got to let us know when you get it done. You got to share some of it with us. And I know you don't want to do that until you actually have the book out and whatever. But at some point, you got to share with us, Stuart. I'd love to see it. Hmm. Um, um, Andy, Greg agrees with you. Come on. Come on, Greg. Start doing a vlog, man. Um, Food pictures only make me jealous. uh, John Hughes. People are far too quick to give negative comments and not say it's a good image. Yeah, and John, I don't know at what point you joined us, but we were talking about that up front. That's really the impetus of this topic for me today. Is I don't know why I don't look at a photo and see anything wrong at first. All I look at and see is, do I like it? Does it resonate? Is it going to hold my attention or not? And I'm talking, there are some great photos out there that I don't care for. It's just not my cup of tea or whatever. They're not bad photos, don't get me wrong. But you're right. We look at it first looking for flaws, I think, all too often. That's what we're looking, especially if it's a great image. No, I got to find something wrong with this because it's embarrassing me. that
There's
I
a
can't.
dust speck in the upper right hand corner that you forgot
Yeah.
to get rid of or something. It's
Yeah. Yep. Uh-oh. RS, my local camera store has a 402.8 in stock. Anybody wants to, anybody that's ready to pull the trigger on the new 402.8, get a hold of RS. Let him know you're interested. Thanks for sharing that. Hmm. And Craig C., another good point of view. I think there are photographers that aim for technical impact and those that go for emotional impact. The ones that blend both, they are truly talented. I would agree with that. Trying to combine the best of both sides, technically correct and, um, for lack of a better word, emotionally correct or whatever. And you're right; those are photos that really make an impact. I agree. Mm. Yep, you're right, Long Rider.
yeah.
Yep. I don't flood my stream with my work. One, it's not good. I mean, compared to
Oh,
you guys, but
it's fine. It's fine, and we always like what you have on the screen behind you.
yeah. Thanks, Mom. But you're right. You're right, Long Rider. Mm. Um, yeah, you know what? That's a good point to make too, Craig. Unsolicited advice equals criticism. I think often you're absolutely right. That is true. I think sometimes somebody sees a photographer or an artist that's struggling a little bit, and you want to offer a little bit of help. And we had somebody in the photo review, not this month, but last month, and it was just a matter of talking about editing, and he hadn't edited the photos, and he didn't know how. And I'm glad we found out, and we could actually help him out a little bit. But did a just a quick edit just to show him, hey, here's what you can do. And by all means, I'm not saying that this was what the quick edit that I did on it was the end all, but it showed enough uh, impact that he was now interested in actually getting software to edit his photos because he could see the difference it made. And how often do you, I mean, honestly, guys and gals, how often do you take a photo where you look at it and say, I'm not going to touch that? I'm not going to touch it. I'm not touching anything. And, I have nothing to edit in this or nothing to fix in this. And I know it happens, but it's,
Not very often.
no, no. And I've done that. I've ruined a photo. I looked at it and thought, man, I love this the way it is right out of camera. It's just, the luck of everything happened at once the right way. It wasn't just the composition, but the light, the shoot, the white balance, everything. It just clicked. And I thought, well, I can make it better. No, no, I could not. And stupid me didn't duplicate the photo, and it's gone. So there you go. So, but I agree with you, Craig, and you need to be careful. I'm not saying you or whatever. I point the finger at me all the time. I'm the same way. I need to be careful, N- not to try to offer anybody a critique. Um, you, you know, I guess if I had people beating on the door out there, hey, can you show me how to edit photos because we love your edits so much, then I could maybe offer people. But I'm not I'm not so proficient that I need to offer anybody any advice. And so we just need to be careful. And maybe the right approach is to say, do you mind if I, show you something about your photo? Instead of, man, the rule of thirds is off and, you got noise in the shadows. And yeah, that's a nice way to open up about somebody's work. Mm. Oh, man. David Bransma, how you doing? Good to see you, sir. Um, Yeah, and that's another. You're absolutely right, Roy, and I do that often too. I, as an example, this is when I was a teenager, and this is when the photo bug was really hit me. I just too broke to buy film, so that didn't last too long. But I had a friend, his older brother shot. He wasn't a professional photographer, but he was in school or in college for photography. Anyway, I saw this shadow on the wall one day. I was painting a room in a house. Teenagers, you got to make money somehow. Anyway, I was painting the wall, and the sun came through the window, and it cast a shadow of this paint roller leaned up against the wall. Sounds crappy, doesn't it? Well, I stopped what I was doing and got a hold of my buddy, and he got a hold of his brother, and his brother came over. He won a photo contest with that photo that he took. I mean, but so that's how we are. We're always looking for something, and you talked about that, Jeffrey. We're always, for me, it's more about shadows. I don't know why I'm so attracted to shadows. They mesmerize me. Hard light and shadows. Uh,
Well,
oh,
that picture that Huff Photo had of the young lady that he said was not a
oh,
professional model.
oh
I
man.
love the shadows on the arms and the definition it gave to her muscles and her arms and everything else, and I really like that.
Oh, I
I mean,
want to tell people it's mine.
rather than just being even light,
Yeah, I want to tell people it's my photo. That's how good I thought it was.
Yeah,
Man, that was an excellent photo, lighting,
yeah,
everything. And she's a beautiful woman too.
yeah,
That always helps. But I mean,
yeah,
yeah, that was something out of Hollywood, 19 what, 30s, 40s.
yeah, yeah. That's just what it looked
Beautiful.
like. Yeah, old
Hmm.
Hollywood photo.
Yeah.
Well,
Way
remember
over.
when you used to go to a fair sometimes, like you'd go to a fair and they'd have the photo booths where you put on old Western clothes and get
Yeah.
your picture taken, But
Mhm.
but those were fun pictures. I mean, my wife and I had that done, and I mean, we lost it over the years, but uh, it was a fun picture to have for a while, dressed up like you were back in the old West times.
Yeah. So Mike's asking, what do you guys think the most iconic image that was in the newspapers when JFK was shot? Well, I don't know how many of us here.
I was pretty young, pretty
Yep.
young.
I think all of us were, but
Yeah.
I don't, thinking about it, I guess I can remember one photo, but I can't remember, all the photos that were taken. But I remember the one of Jackie holding his head against her. Uh, I don't know. I don't know when it was, and in the sequence of that event that took place, but I remember that. But who was it? Was Joe McNally talking about that when he was on the Huggins channel, talking about iconic photo? What is an iconic photo? And an iconic photo is one that just the majority of the people you talk to, if you're surrounded by photographers, they're going to know it when you mention it. And how many iconic photos do you know of? Because if it's iconic and you saw it, you remember it. And the one that I remember best is Afghan Girl. I don't know why that photo just mesmerized me. Um, I think it is an iconic photo. But what are some other iconic photos you can think of?
I think of the one of the sailor kissing the girl at the end of the
Oh yeah.
war.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, everybody remembers that.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
anybody old enough remembers that. But
I can think of another. It's tragic, but I can think of another iconic photo. The little Vietnamese girl walking down the street. Um, that photo that was taken, or the photo of uh, one of the Vietnamese being shot, executed. Yeah, I mean it's morbid, but that's an iconic photo. And I don't know if you guys remember what I'm talking about. I'm going to skip on down so we can get down here to what we're
well,
talking about
a
now.
lot of a lot of the best photos were on the cover of Time magazine for many
Yeah,
many years.
yeah. Mm. Sorry, guys, I jumped all the way down here. I passed up a lot of comments, but you know me, I'm always going to be way behind. Um, let's see. Oh, here you go. That's an interesting comment. Robert Varner. The paintings of Edward Hopper was a model that I tried to emulate in my photos. That's cool. So yeah, is that something you guys do or anybody does? They look at old paintings or even old photos and try to uh, reshoot it or emulate them in a photo shoot. Um, uh, oh yeah, the Muhammad Ali photo, him standing over Sonny Liston. You're right.
Yep, looking down at him.
Yep,
You know.
that's an iconic
Yep.
sports photo, no doubt. The sailor kiss was set up, is what Roy's saying. Doesn't matter, man. It worked. It's a fantastic photo. But that's interesting. I didn't know that it was set up. Uh, uh, yeah, and that's what was interesting about talking to Joe McNally. I mean, he was at the end of the real newspaper photojournalist era with film. Um, it's really interesting to hear him talk about those days. Oh, wow. F-22 Raptors just flew over the house. Oh, yeah. December
Yep.
7th.
Pearl
Daughter's
Harbor
birthday.
Day.
Yep, my daughter's birthday, a day that will live in infamy. And I say that was given to her, the birth of my middle daughter. I love her to death, but man, she's a
My
handful.
my dad was in World War II, and he was in Hawaii when the Japanese surrendered, and today what is the anniversary of his passing. He died on Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah.
Strange as it is.
Sith, that's a good discussion right there. All the photos that came out of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Um, I guess that's where you get into the discussion. Were they iconic? I think they were for the time, but I can't remember. I can remember. I can see those photos in my mind, but there's not one photo that really stands out in my mind. And I think that's what Joe was trying to explain when you're talking about iconic photos. It's there. It's stuck in your mind. You can see it. Anytime you think about it, you can see that photo. That's what makes it iconic. Because they had asked him, "Do you have any iconic photos?" And he said, "Oh no, 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 no." No, no. And he explained why he didn't have any iconic photos. Although a lot of people will talk about some of his photos that were, resonate with them and they're fantastic photos. But he said, no, I didn't have a iconic photo. And he brought up Steve's photo of the Afghan girl too. Um, uh, yeah, this is the photo I was talking about, Roy. That that's iconic. I can picture that photo right now, and the little girl, the Vietnamese girl, running naked down the street. If I remember correctly, somebody was burning behind her or whatever, and that's another one. I don't know if it's iconic, but I do remember it. I don't know why I remember all these images from that era, but the monk that set himself on fire in the middle of the street. All right, all right. I don't want to be so morbid, man. Oh, yep. They were all shot on film with slow cameras. Yep. Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. Well, think about what if you're a street photographer, how much technology do you need for that?
Mhm.
You don't need a lot of technology to do street
Nope. Yep.
photography.
Yep. Napalm girl. That's it. You're right, Long Rider. But just like Joe, I asked him. I said, "Would would you go back to film?" He said, "Oh, hell no, no, no way." And I think anybody in the day that was shooting film would take a Sony, Canon, or a Nikon camera in a minute and shoot digital. If you could do that, if you could take that back, if you could go back to that point, they would all be shooting digital. They would have thrown their film cameras away. Um, yeah, Falling Man from 9/11. You're right. That's an iconic photo. It doesn't get shown very often because obviously the emotion behind it, but that's an iconic photo. uh, yeah, you know what? That's a good
Yeah.
point. I think there were more iconic
Yeah.
photos then because today we're just oversaturated saturated with photos. It may be true. Is there anything current that anybody can think of that might be an iconic photo? Yeah, uh, Neil Armstrong's footprint
No,
on the
that
moon.
that
Yep.
was that was still filmed, though.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. And I'm not
Tribal
saying.
Lawn Writer says, "Is there any iconic photos in the digital age?" And I'm trying to think of them. And yeah, I mean, there's iconic is a very big word. I mean, there's memorable photos from everything from sporting events to Princess Diana's death and things like that you could that I'm sure were taken with some digital cameras and stuff. And but you tend to remember the I don't know, you tend to remember the older stuff. I hate to say it.
Um, the Challenger disaster when it blew up, I can see that trail of smoke. Uh, Roy, are images that capture a moment iconic and not art? Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if yeah, everybody would like to probably throw a lot of these images into the art category. They were art, and they can be art and iconic at the same time. I guess they can be emotional and iconic. They can be whatever and iconic. I guess iconic is just that image that just is seared into your brain and everybody knows it. Obviously not everybody, but predominantly anybody you speak to knows that image, and that's what makes it iconic.
It depends on your age group. Some younger people,
Yeah.
what they may think of as iconic would be any pictures that were taken relative to Y2K or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and while I believe Challenger is an iconic photo too, I'm trying to think of something in the digital age that it just stands out. That's not speaking well of the of there being any iconic images because I can't think of any. Um,
Well,
yeah,
part of it is too is a lot of I can only speak for myself. I mean, I don't get newspapers anymore, so I mean, I just see whatever I see on what little TV I watch on the news, or occasionally stuff that I see when I'm on the
Well,
computer. Right? I don't read as much as I used to.
so am I correct in thinking this, that the iconic images that we've talked about have constantly come up in, news or feeds, or I mean, it's not like they died. The only time you could find it was, after right after it was taken. I mean, they live today. You'll see them, and they come up in at different points in times. You know, I haven't seen Steve's photo of the Afghan girl in a while, but I mean, it was something that found its way into the news somehow, or found its way into the media somehow. A few years back, and all the Vietnam photos, they seem to come back around. They're used in uh, for something to talk about a event or whatever. Hmm. Maybe that helps make it iconic. I don't think that there is, and I think Joe. Somebody asked Joe what is iconic, and I think he tried to define it himself, and found it difficult to do. Um, yeah, this is a good point too, Daryl. Absolutely, I think the digital age there are more iconic videos than photos because it's easier to take video now than it used to be. You're right. Yeah, yeah, we talked about that, Stuart,
Yeah,
the falling man from 9/11. Yeah, it may be morbid to some, and it doesn't get a lot of play, I think, because of the emotions attached to it. And there was a big debate on whether it should have been shown at all, because I remember when it happened, uh, nobody wanted to talk about it because it was so controversial. People had to jump from the building. I don't know. I'm not going to get into all that, but it's a very emotional photo, and the planes themselves flying into and there you go. There's video, Daryl. The planes. That's iconic video. Watching them fly into the buildings.
yeah.
You know, good point. Which photo? Which photo forum are you referring to?
That
Oh,
was a response to a previous comment
okay.
or a question from a
Oh,
previous comment.
from Flintlock.
Yeah,
Is that it? Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Is that Daryl from the photo forum? Okay. I got it. I got it. I'm a little slow. Um, who became an instant icon when she peered out from the June 1985 cover of Nat Geo magazine as a 12-year-old refugee, was evacuated to Rome after the Taliban takeover Afghanistan. Oh, okay. Her name is Sharbat Gula. Okay. Yeah, that is an icon, no doubt about it. You're absolutely right, Andy. That's an iconic photo. Oh man, I spent so much time in Afghanistan looking for her, only to know now that she wasn't even there. I'm kidding, of course. However, I did spend a lot of time in Afghanistan. Uh somebody's at my door. I'll be right back, folks. All right, let's get it a little more lively in here. Let's pick it up. Do I have to rant to get it to be more lively in here? I'll be right back, folks.
yeah. I see Mike Farwell's comment commenting on my comment about magazines. Yeah, it's if you're in your 50s or 60s or older, then everything that you tend to remember is, your mom or your dad got a lot of magazines. I mean, my dad had, when he passed, I mean, I think he had every issue of Life magazine stored down in the basement, and we got National Geographic all the time when I was a kid. So my dad and I split the cost of the subscription for National Geographic. So was always watching or reading about places that I have never gone to. But now there's just not a lot of news media out there. Not very many magazines I'll read. I mean, sometimes I'll buy a photo book or something that somebody did, I own a handful of photo books, but uh, a lot of the reading is ebooks or something on the web, unfortunately. And J Rod, where your 800 is, oh man, God only knows the answer to that question. He or she might not even know. That's, I don't know how they set up their production lines, whether they have they could have, just one big line where they do one batch of a certain lens first, and then they switch over to another batch of lenses and they work on those, or do they have different assembly lines for different lens products? I don't really know how they have things set up in their factory. If it's all only one or two lines and they're doing all the work, then yeah, they may have everything booked out for a year, and they got to get all these other lenses done. They got to do so many and get them out, and then they loop around, and then they start doing them again. So I don't know. Every manufacturing place does things different. I don't know how Nikon is set up. Oh, Andy, yeah, I would think that anyone who buys the 600 with the TC is more than likely not going to hang on to the 800. I have a friend that has the 400 2.8 with the TC, and he has the 800. He personally has no interest in buying the 600, but I did not see the list of where the lenses are made. Well, obviously, I know that a lot of them are not made in Japan, but Taiwan or wherever now. But I don't get all hung up on that. Some people get really hung up on, oh, it's not made in Japan anymore. And if you're old enough, you remember when we first started getting products from Japan in the United States, everybody would say, if it's not made in the United States, it's a piece of junk. Then eventually the Japan quality got exceptionally well, and it was like, well, I'm only buying it if it's made in Japan. And then, stuff gets moved to the Philippines or Thailand or other countries, and it's like, well, it's not made in Japan, I'm not buying it. I mean, it's just, if we wanted to say, if it's not made in the US of A, I'm not buying it, then there would be nothing to buy, unfortunately. It'd be very little. With the global economy, there would be nothing. There wouldn't be one thing that we could buy other than something handmade out of a piece of wood that we could say is made in the United States. Completely made in the United States.
So true. So true. We don't manufacture much of anything. We just assemble things now at best. That's another iconic photo. You're absolutely right, Stuart. Having lunch on the I-beam when they were building the Empire State Building. Yep.
Yeah. Those are scary pictures. I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough money. One, I'm scared of heights, number one. But to be scared of heights and then be sitting out on a beam at the no way. You could have said, I'll give you $1 million, Jeff, to do that. I'd say, keep the $1 million. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, almost everything's fallen to the digital world now. I don't know that they sell many newspapers at all anymore. It was Mike talking about that. What are you getting ready to buy, Mr. Flintlock? The only thing you can buy right now that's available, I think, is the new. If it's new, would be the A7 V. Isn't that, or is it A7R5? I can't keep up with their naming convention, one or the other. But I saw B&H said that it is in stock and available to ship.
Yeah, A7R5, and I don't know if if you're in Canon, I'm not sure if the R6 II is actually available yet or not.
It's hard to keep up right now, man. And how about the Nikon 1-400? No longer taking any orders from dealers.
Yeah,
So I don't know how that works. I mean, how does that alleviate the problem?
Well, it just well, if you're not taking any orders, then they can't. Then people can't complain and say, "I've had it on order for a year and I still don't have
Oh,
my doggone lens," because you can't
okay.
even place the order, right? So,
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that meant they're going to quit making them because we can't make enough. We're just going to stop, or I don't see how that fixes the problem. Uh, Greg Wilson question. It's always going to gravitate to gear, guys, and don't
yeah,
get mad at me because that's just part of the community. Should I forget my 800 millimeter and get the Z9 so I can take artistic pictures, I guess, faster than with the
yeah.
Z6 II? Uh, but then it could be 2 years to get the 800 millimeter. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, if
Uh,
someone wants the new 600 and they say that it takes a year to make those lenses, so Becky and Con, on Grays, were talking that at the time. Now they revised their statement a little bit and said, there are some of those that made it to England, and obviously, Andy got one of them. So, and he lives in England, so somebody had them in England, but a majority are being sold in the United States. And they made a comment that if the dealers get one copy, that's going to be a big deal. So if you're on a list and they say, "Oh, you're number 10," and this is the batch that's out there, that's all you're going to get for the whole year, you may be waiting 10 years to get your lens. Who knows?
yeah, it's a bit disheartening, no doubt
you
about it.
know?
And Craig says the 1 to 400 is currently in stock. Yeah, I think what they're saying is what's in stock is it. They can't place any more orders. The dealers can't place any more orders.
Yeah.
I think Becky said that they had one or a couple, or no, that maybe it was a 400 4.5. I can't remember. So Gray's is, they've fallen into that already. And it's funny.
Yeah. I don't know
400
if Andy wants to share where he got his in England or not. That's up to him, but I'm pretty sure he didn't get it at Gray's.
Well, it's really funny. The 1 to 400. I mean, it's been available for a while, but I guess it just finally got real popular. I didn't see that coming. I didn't, hear a lot of people talking about just picking up the 1 to 400 in the last couple of months. So, I mean, that bodes well for the line. I have the 1 to 400, and I think it's a fantastic lens as well. I mean, it doesn't come close to a 400 2.8 or the uh, and it compares favorably with the 400 4.5 only in that it is a zoom lens, so you get a lot of extra range there to play with. But I think that at the long end, the 400 4.5 definitely is better than the 1 to 400. A lot of people may want to argue that point, and I can't say that from as fact because I don't have the 400 4.5. And
Well, I mean, traditionally, any fixed lens is going to be better than a zoom at its higher end. That's almost a given.
Yeah, and it
You
should
know,
be that
you
way.
get
Yeah,
a zoom for the versatility. You don't get a
yeah.
zoom so that at every focal length in its zoom range, it's better than a prime. I mean, that's not how it works.
No, you're right. And the
You
2 to 600 will be a huge seller. I know there's so many people waiting on that lens. I guess because most people are going to shoot it probably at the 600 millimeter range focal length all the time. But I found out with the excuse me, the 80 to 400, which a lot of people don't like, but that lens did me well. It served me well. Uh, I enjoyed the zoom on it because shooting sports, you're limited if you have a fixed focal length lens, a super tele lens or a tele lens, prime. You got to constantly be. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, that everybody's going to have a difference of opinion on whether they want a prime or whatever. I understand a prime is going to be better, but the zoom does give you a lot of versatility. And that's what the 80 to 400 did for me, which is why I picked up the 1 to 400 because I like the 80 to 400 so much. All right. Yeah, yeah, James, don't blame me, man. Don't blame me. But it is a good lens. It is a good lens. It's very sharp, very responsive, and I'm happy with it. Hey, Flintlock, no, the phone line is not working, man. I still haven't figured out why all of a sudden my Rodecaster Pro will not pick up the audio from the phone. And I have a question in with Rode trying to figure it out, and they haven't answered me yet. I don't
You
know
know
what I did.
what I used to notice was, if they're, I think people tend to have, some zooms and some primes, but then I remember years ago I knew people that they would only shoot primes, and the thing is they always carried two cameras on them with two different primes on them, because obviously you don't have that flexibility of the zoom, so they tended to have two camera bodies with two different prime lens on there, and they would grab one or the other. But obviously the zoom is more convenient to maybe get that sudden shot that you weren't expecting, because by the time you switch cameras and put the other one to your eye, the shot is gone.
Hey, Sith, got your 1 to 400 2 weeks ago since the 400 4.5 was out of stock, but now it's in stock at B&H. Yeah, the 400 4.5 has been in stock quite a bit. I think that's a good thing because I know a lot of people really wanted to look at that lens. Jeffrey, Andy says, yeah, I did, but keep it quiet on his 600
Yeah, yeah.
TC lens.
I hear nothing. I hear nothing. I see nothing.
Yeah, James, I agree with you that the 2X TC on the 1 to 400 does work well. Of course, there is a little struggle. And I think you had said you had a little struggle with it too. There is a struggle because it is at f11 and you need light. But when all things are right, or if you have time, where you can slow down, then that 1 to 400 with the 2X on it is pretty daggone good. I took some photos with it, and yeah, I like it. It's just, and for birds in flight, I think it would be fine. You could tell me more about that, but I don't know. It just seems like it might be a little slow in acquiring focus.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, for birds in flight, but it's one of those things when you hit, it's going to be a good photo.
Yeah, I think when you shoot a 2X telly, that you can almost expect that the AF speed is going to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Roy's saying he's not a fan of TCs on Zooms. I'm not either, Roy, but then again, I can't go buy a 600 TC or a 400 TC. So I become a fan because I'm a poor man.
Well, if that's what you need to get the shot, then you become a fan real quick. Otherwise,
Yeah.
'cause a shot is better than no shot.
But I will say this, that the TC2X seems to be better in the Z line with Z lenses than the old TCs were in the F mount.
Yeah, the 2X and the F mount to me was a horrible teleconverter. It was horrible. I mean, like you said, I agree with you. The 2X, from everything I've read and what people have said, the 2X for the Z mount is a lot better than the F mount version.
Well, I made the compromise on the F mount side. I bought a TC17, trying
Yeah.
to keep the goodness from the 1.4, but get a little more reach heading towards the 2.0. And I think you can still see the compromise that I made, even with the 17. But the 17 was good on my 400D prime. So, yeah. That's just it. If we could all afford all the lenses we want, then we'd, look like an idiot walking around trying to carry them all, because then we wouldn't be happy. We'd take the 800 out and wish we had the 400
Yeah.
or vice versa. So, yeah, it's all a compromise. You just got to do what works best for you. I guess that's why they make so many of them. Jeffrey, hook me up with an A7R5.
Let me check my inventory. Wait a minute. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I've heard this too, that the 2X on the 70 to 200Z works well. I can't speak to that because I don't have the 70 to 200 yet. I will eventually, wind up with the or my version of the Trinity because I don't think I'm going to the 14 to 24 2.8. I really like this 14 to 30. Yeah, I understand I lose what a stop of light or so, but I like it. It works for me. And I guess I didn't. I have the Trinity in the F mount, the 14 to 24 2.8, but I found I didn't use that lens enough to for me to want it again in Z mount.
Well, if you're using that kind of lens, not the you're typically, not necessarily always, you're typically using it for landscape photography, and you're stopping the lens down anyway, so it doesn't matter. And you're using a tripod if you
Yeah.
need to use a tripod. So you
Hey,
know,
yeah. Hey, Flintlock. I want to disagree with you here. The good thing about a TC on excuse me on long lenses is we don't have to buy the next size larger, or we can take the TC off and have a shorter focal length or the original focal length of the lens. But I agree with you in the fact that you're not going to get the same performance that you would without. However, for the ones that are built in these new lenses, yeah, I don't think there's any compromise at all because they are built and refined for that lens. That glass is all matched as a set. So I think that they're onto something here with these built-in TCs.
well,
It's not like adding one to the back end.
TCs offer an option for someone who doesn't have the budget to buy a lot of lenses too. So I mean, it fits a niche, and everybody has different price points for what they can afford. So um, in that respect, you can't really find fault with it. You're trying to create a market that everybody has a choice. Everybody has
Yeah.
an option.
Canon's got the F11 800, and I understand it probably falls into the same category as the 1 to 400 with the TC on it because you're at F11 at the long end then with a 2X on it. Um, and I'm sure that uh, it works extremely well. And it's definitely cheaper, no doubt about that, going the Canon route. But Simon and everybody's going to throw rocks at me. I like Simon. I'm sorry, he's a news nut. He keeps us all informed. Everybody wants to accuse him of speculation and being wrong or whatever. Well, I don't see that he's any more wrong than any of the other people that speculate, to include myself. I mean, the D800 or I'm sorry, the Z8 should be in our hands right now, according to me. But I had to back up and say, well, it didn't happen. Sorry about that. But anyway, Simon, he had the 800 F11 and he liked it. He talked about the shortcomings of it. And it was usually talking about focus speed and, lack of light in the evening or whatever. But,
Yeah, when
you
you're
know,
when you're shooting any long lens and you're shooting at f11 and if you're shooting early morning, it's a recipe for a hard time, is what it is. It's just everything has its limits.
yeah, I think if we pixel peep, you're right, Roy. We can find fault in it with the TC on it, but my 1 to 400 with the 2X on it. Uh, Now here you go. This goes back to what we were talking about a little bit. What we were talking about earlier. Um, I can take it into Topaz, and I know that everybody hates whatever, but I can take it into Topaz, and I can clean an image up real quick and sharpen it, and it looks fine to me. It looks, you know, fantastic. So it is a couple of extra steps to, make it not acceptable, but maybe not quite as good as the uh, Prime, but still pretty daggone good. So it's a poor man's 800 for me. That's what I get
You know.
with limitations.
Greg, thanks for the reminder. Everybody hit that like button for Chuck.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, my wife's in the kitchen. She can hear me, so I have to make my plea now. Would you please drop a like? It motivates me, makes me feel good about myself, and that's important to me. And it continues to motivate me for continuing the streams. Not that I'm giving the streams up, but anyway, yeah, I do appreciate it when you drop a like. And if you're not a subscriber, then I would invite you to maybe check out more of our streams and consider subscribing. You know, we love the community that we have here. And I know not everybody is vocal in the chat, and that's fine. A lot of people just like to listen in the background. I think it's wonderful. And that's one of the things that I think we provide with these live streams. It's not so visual that you can't enjoy it by just listening. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for reminding me.
Well, what's good, Chuck, is when I'm talking, everybody takes a nap. And then when you rant, everybody wakes up.
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't been on a good rant in a while.
Yeah, you've been kind of mellow. I think those M&Ms are mellowing you out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just the end of the year. We're winding down. We're moving to Christmas. And oh, by the way, I'm glad that that reminded me. Somebody had suggested considering a Christmas live stream. My wife actually said, "Yeah, that you should do that." And so I plan on doing it. And the question I have, yes, I know I get to make the decision. I got that. And somebody was very kind in saying, no, you choose. But I'm going to ask the audience if anybody be interested. And I'm not asking people to come in Christmas Eve or, give up time with the family on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. But I think that I will go live on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And you guys can let me know, if anybody would like to participate, just which day would be best, preferable. Of course, I'm not taking names down. Hey, you said you'd be here Christmas Day, and you're not. You didn't show up. But I think I may do that, and I kind of lean towards Christmas Day. I think most people are so busy Christmas Eve, and then again with the time difference, Christmas Eve is Christmas Day for a lot of people. So I don't know how I could be on either one. I'm going to be on, we're going to be broadcasting to people. If I do it Christmas Eve, people that are local US on Christmas Eve, but then those abroad, it would be Christmas Day. All right. Enough of my babbling. If you guys would like to participate, or whether you want to participate or not, just let me know what you think would be best. Christmas Day for most people, midday is still going to be late Christmas night. I get that. But yeah, I think I'll do it. I did it last year. I was on for a little bit for anybody that wanted to join. I think a few people joined, and I wouldn't expect a big crowd because there's so much going on with the family. And I would tell everybody, do not give up your time with your family. And if you're young and you have young children, do not give up that time because they'll be adults and begging you for money sooner than you think.
Yeah, and you need Christmas Eve to sneak all the toys under the tree while they're sleeping for Christmas morning.
Yep.
At least that was my pattern. Wait till the kids were sound asleep and then sneak everything down and stuff it under the tree.
Yeah. Back to the 1 to 400. He did notice the focus box a little slower. I did too, James. But it's a compromise, and we know that. I think you're like me. If you could just run out and pick up a 400 2.8 TC or a 600 2.8 TC or 600 F4 TC or a 800 PF, you would do it. We can't do that, so we got to find what we can live with. So you're right. I noticed it as well. All right, Stuart. Thanks for dropping by, man. I love seeing everybody in here. I like it when you comment. Again, this is what you guys get to do here. You can drive the train on the topic. Sometimes I pick a topic. Sometimes I just come in here hoping somebody's going to say something we can all talk about. It's kind of tough with 104 of these a year. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, Stuart. I hope you enjoyed yourself. We enjoyed you being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Oh, Mr. Brian's joined us. Six String Brian. Up Canada way. Probably knee deep in snow right now.
Wow, that's a big weight. That's a big weight change. Pound and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be able to carry that around all day if you want to. No problem.
Yep. I've heard a lot of people, talking about the new Sony 7200. All right. Hope you're doing well, Brian. One of these days, I'm going to badger you to put together a riff for my channel, an opening riff. Then I'll have to learn how to actually use it.
Well, James makes a comment here. There's even art when taking pictures of your old cameras. I once in a while will go and I'll try to find something that I might want to, hang up on the wall behind me or whatever, but I don't have a lot of space left. But yeah, I do notice that there are a lot of framed photos of old cameras.
Mm-hmm.
That is a common thing out there. Retro vintage cameras being sold in print form.
Okay.
I mean, great if if you own a camera shop or you have a big or a studio or an office that you use for doing showing your cameras off or whatever, then you look for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What I can't find is I've been trying to find, and I shouldn't say there is nothing out there, but if you're trying to find, like, say, old display cases from camera stores or old posters that were in camera stores for certain cameras or lighting. If you wanted to find a Nikon light, it's basically impossible. I have not been able to find any kind of a reproduction even of anything that says Nikon on it that lights up. So some stuff is just impossible to find. And then if you do find something, it's like $5,000 or something crazy.
Okay. I got a photo up here. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna share the screen here real quick. And this is with the 1-400 with the 2X TC. So it's at 800 millimeter. And yeah, it's I don't know. I think it looks just fine myself. Now, I'm not saying it looks as good as it would be if I had the 600 or the 800 Prime, the 800 PF, but it works for me. There's plenty of detail in it. So there it is. There's 800 millimeters with the 1-400 and the XTC. I wish I could make it larger for you.
Yeah, and even if someone was looking to buy a print of that, if unless they had, like you said, an 800 taking the same picture and then looking at it side by side, most people would look at that and say, yeah, I like that, I'll buy it. They wouldn't have a problem.
I think I have another one here. Oh, here's straight out of camera. And yeah, you can see the difference between the two, but it's not so remarkable that, like I said, just a few minutes playing with it in Photoshop using Topaz brought it right back to life. Actually, there's very little noise in the background here, but it is quite light. So now, even with 800 millimeter, I'm only about 50 feet away. That's how small the bird is in the viewfinder. Oh man. I don't have it in Lightroom or I'd zoom in, but yeah, again, it's a compromise. I will agree. I wouldn't argue with you guys when you say you lose some resolution or fidelity or add noise or anything. I agree with you, but it's a much cheaper setup and it's more versatile for me. But I'd love to have an 800 PF or a 600. I've always wanted a 600 F4, always. I guess now I could actually possibly afford one, save up and afford one in F mount or the E version even. But it won't be the new one, that's for sure.
Well, and then the problem is the the more you zoom, or the more you crop, any defects get exaggerated. If you have noise and you're
Yeah.
at 1200 millimeters, the noise is going to look a lot worse. If you, or you know what I'm saying. So any defect or anything that's off a little bit, once you crop it a little too much, or zoom in a little too much, or put too many TCs on it or whatever, then yeah, all those negatives get more noticeable, and you have to decide what do you find acceptable for you.
Yeah.
That's a personal choice. That's a personal choice. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a lens? The 24 to 120 at 2.8. Wow. It definitely gained some weight, wouldn't it? But yeah, the 24 to 120 has been one hot selling lens for Nikon. I know that it's like Canon or Sony with the 24 to 105, which is what we thought we were going to get in the Nikon camp. But that's such a versatile lens. A lot of people love that lens in all three camps, you know, that focal range. Sith talking about his use a 2x TC on surfing shots. Yep. That's a 80% keepers, I think, is good.
Yep.
Some softness around the edges. Well, you know, and that's what I was saying. Look, I don't propose that that's the absolute best way to go, but for us photographers, we just poor, can't afford
Yeah.
$16,000.
Yeah. Po, not pro. Po.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
TC becomes a great telelens for us. But you guys are right. I agree.
Well, your only other option, if you need a little extra, is if you got a full frame, you switch it to DX mode, and you don't lose any quality. You don't lose any light. You don't lose any light. It doesn't affect your f-stop.
Oh man, let's see. Built-in TC seemed to add about $1,000. Yeah, I guess in the new lenses. Okay, but it's worth it for me, and that's all that matters, Andy. That's all that matters. You know me, man. I'm all about want. You don't have to need it. You just want it, and you can afford it. Go buy it. Life's too short. You know, tomorrow a bus could run you over. Not you, Andy. Any of us.
Well, Andy would get run over by a double decker where he lives. Double decker bus.
I don't think
that would be worse.
Yeah, you know what? And we haven't talked about that. So let's give some love to Olympus or OM. The OM system is actually pretty daggone good, and I've seen some photos. I talked to Lee. Oh shoot, can't remember his last name. Talked to him infrequently, but he sent me some photos. He fell in love with the OM1 OM system, that 150 to 400, and he loves it. And I think that you know, that's great. You know, there's so many cameras to choose from out there anymore. You just can't go wrong, honestly. And just like everybody says, you know, a camera's a camera. I get that, but you know, it's okay to have your preference as well.
Well, I like the review that Steve Perry did on the 600 lenses, and he included the new Sony 600 lens with their. They obviously don't have a built-in TC, but he compared it with their external TC, and quality-wise, comparable. You know, almost line on line with the Z lens. And you have to decide whether, well, if you're a Sony guy, you're going to buy Sony. If you're a Nikon guy, you're going to buy Nikon. But the thing is, you know, that Nikon lens, because of that built-in feature with the switch, you know, it's like $1,000 or $1,500 more than an equivalent Sony combination. But you don't have to put the TC on; you just flip a lever. So is that worth $1,500? For some
It
people,
would,
yes. For some
if,
people, no.
yeah, it would be for me if I could afford it.
Yeah, yeah,
I guarantee you, if I could afford it, yes, it would be worth it to me.
yeah.
And then again, and I'm going to say this, and everybody's like, well, what do you need it for or whatever? I probably wouldn't use that lens, but a few times a year, but I would still buy it if I could afford it. I know people are saying, man, if I had that lens, I'd be out every day. And that's fine. That's great. That's exactly what should happen. But I would still buy it, even if I only use it a few times a year, if I could afford it. But there are other things I want to buy before that. So, not that I could buy that today if I put everything else on hold. I got to save money, my piggy bank, keep my
Yeah,
piggy bank
like
going.
Andy says, if you're shooting in dusty locations, yeah, sure. If you're using that on a dusty area in Africa or something, and you don't want to take the lens off your camera, period.
Yeah.
So then it is a big deal.
Hey,
Really
Andy, I
big
put your
deal.
comment up here just because I found it funny. He paid, I think it was $4,200 for that jacket, that Canon jacket. They gave him an R5 to go with it. So, he's proud of that jacket, and rightly so. But I agree. I'm going to actually mention that. I'm going to have to check out one of his videos coming up here and say, man, they make a Sony or a Canon or a Nikon version of that jacket. All right.
He sure does crank out the content, though, man. I gave up trying to keep up with him. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just nonstop.
Yep. Oh. Let's see. Let me keep going. Sorry, I'm going to pass some of these up. Mike Farwell dropped a Z8. Just throwing Z8 out there. Yeah. Yep. Well, there is more speculation on the Z8, I guess we could say. It's funny, it sounds very familiar, but sorry, I jumped the gun and started talking about it too soon. I guess there is an actual time when you can begin talking about these things, and we're close enough to the possible release of it now that others have decided that they'll talk about it. So, but anyway, the next big thing will be to see what it is, what the Z8 is, and there's a lot of I was going to say infighting. It's not fighting, but a lot of disagreements on what the Z8 is going to be now that it's close enough that we can speculate. Is it going to be the baby Z9? And there's some people that just absolutely hate hearing that. They do not want to hear baby Z9. It's not going to be a baby Z9. It can't be. We get that. We're smart enough to figure that out. But glad you pointed it out. Thank you very much. But because it will have limitations because of the size. And the two most obvious are lower heat dissipation and battery life. Why? Because it's smaller. We get that. We figured that out. We actually understand that.
Nikon didn't have to tell us that either.
No, we could figure that out. Believe it or not, we aren't quite as dumb as we look, but but yeah, is it going to be that? And then we get into the high megapixel, and I'm not bringing this up to get this going, guys. I'm just bringing it up because Mike triggered me with Z8 here. And so then we get into high megapixel, and everybody thinks it has to be the Z800. And, like Nikon's never done anything different. There was no 800 series until the Z8 or the D800 came out. So we could have been arguing back then, no, it won't be. Nikon's only done D700 and whatever, blah, blah, blah. They never did a high megapixel camera, but they did. So I guess my point is, let's not get locked into the history of Nikon, because even that'll throw you for a loop. And I go back to the D5 with the surprise, the D500. Nobody saw that coming. Some say they did and tried to talk about it. But anyway, so Nikon can do whatever they want, obviously, and they do whatever they want. So is it going to be the high megapixel monster? And if so, what happens to the Z7 III? So again, I go back to, I think it's going to be the baby Z9. I'm sticking to that. I will say I'm wrong again. I don't want to, but I will when it comes out, if it's the megapixel monster. But I still think that so many people want that baby Z9 that's what it's going to be. And I know, again, everybody hates hearing baby Z9. What I mean by that is the capabilities that you find in the Z9 in a smaller body, and there will be some things will be truncated. Big word there. Some things will be limited because of the size of the body and other things. Will it be a backside illuminated sensor? You bet. Will it be a stacked backside illuminate BSI sensor? I think it will, and we'll see. We'll see. You know,
I just wish that I was really hoping that, well, the year isn't over yet, but I was really hoping before year end they were going to at least come out with an announcement of whatever the next camera was going to be, with some
yeah,
teaser specs or whatever. And yeah, we still got 3 weeks, but
yeah.
I'm not holding my breath.
It would be nice, and you know what? If they're going to do the teaser route with it, I wish they'd start now.
Yeah.
I don't want to start in January because then we got to go through the 6 weeks of teasers. It's kind of like the 12 days of Christmas. Nikon has the 6 weeks of teasers for big announcements. So
We'd have
I
to
don't know.
change it to the 12 weeks of Nikon instead of the 12
There,
days.
there you go. There you go. So Roy just wants a Z1 for Christmas, and I'm with you. I'm with you, Roy. I don't even know what it would be, but I'm with you. I want one because it sounds cool. Z1. Um, doesn't Jeffrey work for B&H? Actually, he's at work right now, Flintlock. He's at the B&H booth in B&H, broadcasting live from.
What do you want? A7R5? What? Yeah, we have that on sale. Oh yeah, no problem. Ship it today.
No, man. Oh. Oh man, Roy talking about they have good Christmas barbecues there. That sounds good. Big barbecue. Um, and I think you guys have a different definition of barbecue than we do in the South. It throws us for a loop sometimes. We hear the northern folks talking about we're going to barbecue. In the South, that means long, slow, low heat, rubs and sauces. Up here, it just means you're just going to do hamburgers on a grill. That's a barbecue. Difference in terminology between the North and South, and I think it's the same way for you, Roy. I guess it's just being out on the having a barbecue or a grill outside and doing that kind of stuff. That's good. All right, so I'm going to keep moving here. Lunchtime YouTube family, Mr. James, thank you very much, buddy. Love seeing you in here. I always love you being in here, James. And anytime you want to be on, I need to send the link. Somebody had sent me an email, and I am so sorry I can't find it now. But I only get about 200 a day or more about being on the show. And again, I'll throw this offer out there to everybody that's in the chat and just viewing, that you're welcome to be on the show in the panel if you have the means to stream. I mean, just the camera is set up and audio that works.
Yeah. We've never had an audio problem.
Never. An audio that works, then you're welcome to be in the panel. And all you have to do is send me an email, and I just have to be able to retrieve it or find it again. So anybody that sent me one saying they'd like to be on the show, you're more than welcome to be on the show. Send me an email, and it's simple. For those that don't know, I use Restream. And all I have to do is send you a link, and this is how you get in the show. You click the link, and you're here. That's how it is. It runs in your browser.
Andy's saying it was him, Chuck. Miller says it. Andy Miller says it was him. Requested a link.
Okay. All right. Well, Andy, are you want to drop in today? By all means. All right. Hang on a second. All right, Andy, check your email. But this goes to everybody, anybody that comes to the stream anytime. I can't say I can put everybody on at any given stream, but if you'd like to be on, just send me an email and let me know, and I will I'll set it up so that you can come, be in here. Again, I wish I could put everybody in the screen. Then we'd have a mosaic of people on the screen. You
Well, then
like that?
you'd have to make it so that when you look at it, it looks like a picture. You know?
Yeah, we just move everybody around until we get the Mona Lisa or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Ray Powell, Chuck's backyard pigeons. Yeah, Z Wade's joining me for Christmas this year. We're gonna do the lesser known pigeon, the larger pigeon, and the more smaller pigeon, because that's how me and Zach uh, determine what birds are. Uh, let's see. Took you a little while to find the bird on my photo. Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. These are. I don't think I've cropped that yet. So he's well camouflaged as well. So, but yeah, there's another lesson in focal length. Trying to find that little critter in the brush that he's sitting in, man. And he barely fills. He doesn't fill the frame at all. He's a speck in the frame. It's not easy. But then again, I don't do this all the time. And my hat's off to you people that shoot birds all the time and birds in flight, like James and Arthur or uh, oh shoot, who else out there? I don't know who. Hats off to you guys. And I know it takes a lot of practice, which I haven't given this a lot of practice. So when I get out there and complain, well, you know why now, because I don't put a lot of effort into it. Everybody, welcome Mr. Andy. How you doing?
Hey, hello, sir. I think you might be muted. We don't hear you.
Yep. Nope, can't hear you yet, Andy. Take your time.
The joys of modern technology.
Yeah. Nope, can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
You sound good
definitely.
now.
So, good evening.
How you
Hello,
doing,
hello.
sir? Welcome.
I'm
Nice
fine.
to see you.
Been a few months, Chuck. You harassing me to.
Well, that's what I do best, Andy. I harass people.
I figured you'd be out there hiding in the brush with the 600 right about now.
Well, it's cold for us and dark, so no good. I was yesterday. I was at a shoot at a hawk center,
Yeah.
and I just took 4,000 shots in a few hours because it's the Z9.
Yeah, it's not hard to do, is it?
I'm about a quarter of the way through them. Just having a break with a coffee.
There you go. Coffee's always good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I get home, and when I see how many I took, I put my hands in my head, and I'm like, what am I doing?
I mean, my deal's really easy. I give photos to the places that let me come and shoot.
Okay.
And so I try and get about 5 or 10 out the same day, which I did, but I only got through an hour of a 6-hour shoot. And it's what do you do in the winter? You go through all the old stuff, which might be.
I'm getting ready to do that because I'm setting up my NAS drive, and I'm going to have to go through a bunch of external drives to populate this new setup for my storage. And I'm going to start posting a lot of bad old photos just to aggravate people.
It's never a bad one.
Well, you look at what you shot 20 years ago, though, and then you look at where you are today, and you look at those photos that you thought were great 20 years ago, and now you look at them and you say, I'm just going to shove them over here.
Sure. Daryl says he quit shooting in 20 frames per second because he came back with too many in focus photos. Roy says Andy is a keeper. All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about the 600, man. You have the lens.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have to give away your secret.
The other one, which is the 400.
Oh man.
Oh
man.
You're done. Yeah, you're done then. You don't need anything else for wildlife. You're set.
So I had a call today from my supplier for Hasselblad, who's desperate to get me to be his supplier for other things. And I did say, well, you know the deal. Whoever gets it me first gets the business. And that's Gray's. I have to say that Gray Levitt and the team there are wonderful. I rate them the best Nikon store in the world, not having traveled at all.
Okay. Well, I would say you get better conversations there, no doubt about it.
Hey, look, if you go to any good store, like you were advising Chuck, your local store, the guys know their stuff, right?
No, yeah, I agree.
If you buy online, you're just in a long queue, and all they want is your credit card.
Yeah, and I try to tell people that every time there's a new release or whatever. If you I don't care how close you are to the second that it drops, the link drops at all the major stores, you're going to be way down in the queue, and just go find you a local store. Well, that's just it, Andy. We don't have those anymore in America.
Yeah.
We've lost so many camera stores that very few are local to us.
Yeah. I mean, this is what Gray's produced. That's Becky's picture.
Yep.
I talked to Gray Levitt before he did it. He gave me the inside cover.
Wow.
That's my shot.
That's cool.
A Kingfisher. Hang on, there we go. The Kingfisher, taken at 120 frames per second, just touching the water.
Yep.
Of course, it's staged, as in edit.
Yeah.
So I could pre-focus. Rob McNeish at MPS used the shot for the launch of the Z9. I gave it to him for free. I give it to everybody for free.
I didn't know that was your photo.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
I was just in a spot where I was going to play. I had 8 flights when I tried to get the shot. Click, click, click. Missed every single one. I said, okay, what am I going to do? Put it on 120. Got the shot first time. Pete, who owns the hide and has the setup, he nearly killed me. He's there every day with his lovely Canons and Sonys, and I go, Pete, buy a Nikon.
That's funny you mentioned that, because everybody said you don't need this, you don't whatever, and you know what, you don't. I get that, but does it make life extremely easy sometimes for something that you wouldn't otherwise get? And I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, you always will have a circumstance where you could use something that's on your camera that,
sure,
I mean, maybe you only use it once a month, once a year, whatever, but it's nice to know you have it.
Yeah. And that's why we pay for the new technology. It's why we pay for the better glass. When I go to Africa, if I told you what it cost me to have 3 weeks in Kenya, the glass is irrelevant in terms of the price of that. And I'm doing that booking now for next year. And you bet your life, that's why I've bought the glass and I've bought the gear.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love Kenya. I love it.
Oh God. Yeah. It's if you haven't been, I would say go to Kenya and the Republic just south, go to Nguruguru crater, which is an old meteor crater that's just this unbelievable habitat. You will get the big 30, let alone the big 5, 10, 15, whatever. You'll get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you've got to do is be willing to get up at 3 a.m. like I do. Just go out and shoot, come back when it's too hot, process some images, sleep at lunchtime, go out at tea time for as long as they let you. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And, I'm not there to drink or to do that. I'm there to take photos. And all the guys know.
You don't enjoy a good warm Tusker?
No. I have a cold one.
I hear you.
And Tusker is the beer. I mean, in the Mara. So, and that's why you go for 2 or 3 weeks if you can, because the flight is expensive and all of that. And that's what I'm planning to do.
So how much time do you spend down in Nairobi? Do you guys, I guess you all fly into Nairobi?
One night.
Okay. Because,
So
Nairobi's nice too.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
nice to see
yeah,
Nairobi too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let me give a shout out to the David Sheldrick Sanctuary, and they rescue orphaned elephants
Okay.
and other animals. That they fall down, these baby elephants fall down things, and the boys and girls go and collect them. Like
Yeah.
they fall down a well because they're. I'm looking over here, and the camera's here, of course.
Yeah. That's all right. It doesn't matter.
They fall down a well, and so in Nairobi is the Nairobi Park, and in the park is the Sheldrake Sanctuary, and
Okay.
many other people, thankfully, I sponsor a black rhino called Marshall, who's got a congenital eye defect. His lens is actually just behind the cornea. And you can go and stroke him and get yourself covered in rhino droppings. That's entirely fine. Then you can go play with the little babies. They give them milk, and they're right next to you, little baby elephants. But when they lean on you, you work out these things are heavy, even as a baby. And they love to lean on you, by the way. Don't let them fall on you. But so Nairobi Park, and in Nairobi, you've got the Giraffe Hotel. You can stay in this place. They're all in a district called Karen, and that's named after Karen Blixen, which was where the movie was. Okay. And you don't worry about the history and all of that stuff. And you don't worry about the politics, and you'll be safe if you're not stupid.
Yeah.
And the first time, you got to drive. You got to go down the side of the Rift Valley, which is a mile.
Oh, yeah.
With blown out brakes going down.
Yeah. Smelling the brakes.
Coming up.
Yeah.
But then after that, you fly. You fly from Wilson Airport on Safari Link, and it takes half an hour. And it's just what you do.
Yeah, I've been from south to north in Kenya. I love it. I spent a lot of time up in Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
And what is it, Nanyuki up there?
Well, Nakuru, and there's a whole bunch of parks, but Samburu and Nakuru are the most northern ones. And that's where the biggest trouble with poaching and thing has been, because they had droughts up there.
Yeah.
In the Masai.
If I'm not mistaken, it's the only airport in the world you fly in and you see wild giraffe in the large park adjacent to the airport. I don't know if you still can, but it's just amazing. You can see it just stunned me the first time I flew in out there to see the giraffe running, on the ground or whatever. Kenya's a fascinating place to go, and the people are so friendly. They're great.
Yeah. Of course they are. But remember, it's their living.
Yeah.
Okay. So, our duty, our responsibility is to make sure we tip them well, reasonably well, not crazy nuts. The last time I was there was 2017. I had King James. He's not a king, but that's what he's called. He's in his 50s. And he had a trainee in my truck, because I get a safari vehicle with a driver guide. And I had a trainee who was 35.
Mm-hmm.
Just came out of college. He was doing his field experience, age 30, because the job of a guide is a top job.
Yep.
And these guys are fantastic. And if you look at the guys who go out there, and I can't remember his name, your friend from Malaysia who keeps joining you,
Sanjit or John Ishii.
John Ishii. John goes.
Okay. Yep.
There's another guy called Jeffrey Wu who lives in one of the camps.
Yeah.
For the whole season. And he's got great images because he's there for a season.
Yeah. Well, Gucharan is also he lives. He's in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Have you met him?
No.
No, he's one of those guys that maybe you ought to try to contact. He's so friendly, and he's one that would love to link up for you for for at least a conversation or whatever. And of course, he's shooting all over Masai Mara and
I just get upset because I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, and anytime I went, just so you know, I didn't have cameras. I couldn't have cameras with me. So it was all with the military, but I've spent a lot of time there on the ground. and had a great time. I mean, it's just a wonderful, beautiful place.
Well, you know the history, and I could talk about the British forces in Kenya, and we've got a history there. We've still got a training base there. I'm not military. They train a lot of the forces and the rangers. And when I went to Samburu, which is another national park, on the way in, I had a school friend. This is back a long time ago, who was from there. His father set up all the ranger posts. He's Kenyan. Yeah. And so coming into the park in Samburu, there's this little post with the name Archer. Archer was the surname, and the family set up the rangers.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, there's history here, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't shut up, by the way. You'll get used to that. But when you're talking to Maasai, it's a chatty history.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to name a lion. The lion's called Loki because he was a naughty boy and he got a scar on his head. And my driver's listening to me talk to Duncan, the trainee, and all of a sudden they named the lion because I wouldn't shut up about it. I just watched the Marvel movie.
Oh, hey, Andy, Mike Swanson's asking a question here. Do you shoot APS-C by chance?
So the answer was yes. And yes, it was the D500. And at the time, and with a grip, of course, and at the time, that's how we got the frames per second. I'm comparing a D500 to the D5 and the D810, I think it is. I think I had all three at the same time.
Yep.
And the D500, when I first looked at the images, I thought, oh, these are rough. Because, APS-C or DX, as we call it, I think Nikon were going to rebrand themselves at some point. But actually, some of my most favored shots of cheetahs working with children very early in the morning, playing, they're with the D500. Of course they are.
Yeah.
My problem was I took it to Etosha and then the Chobe River, and I had the lens off and I got a puff of dusty air just to go back a bit. And of course, I coated the sensor with crap. Sorry, with crud. Shouldn't use it. And that's where I got to meet some guys. A guy called Guts who runs Pangolin Safari on the Chobe River. Another fantastic company. And that's where you need to remember to take your sensor cleaning gear and learn how to wet clean a sensor in your tent. And of course, I forgot, but Guts sorted me out. But I've only been a few times. Okay, 16, 18 weeks. That's a few times. The guys that live out there, work there, do this for a living, the guys that run the safaris, these are all great. And they struggle to make money. I mean, the guy I like is a South African fella. He's a Canon shooter. Okay, I don't care. He has a FX body and a DX body or an APS-C body. Probably still shoots DSLR because his business is not taking photos. It's running photo tours. Yeah. And you go with those guys the first few times. They show you where to go. And then you work out, oh, okay, I could book that trip. I've done that a few times now. I've gone with people first time, worked out how to go, where to go, and then book my own stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you always went through a service or whether you planned out your own itinerary.
So my very first trip was following a seminar at the Nikon school in London. While it existed, it doesn't exist as a building anymore. Nikon had to make some cost savings, and there was a South African wildlife photographer. I'll mispronounce his name, but here we go. His name's Lou Coetzee.
Okay.
And he runs a company called CNP Safaris. And I went with him on the Chobe River in Etosha, but I'd gone through a different company to my first trip in Kenya, but they organized it all. Wonderful guy, Stu Porter. Okay. Once I did the first trip, I vowed never to drive around Kenya in a safari vehicle for 8 hours at a time on their roads.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Broken back, I'm assuming.
You're absolutely slaughtered by the time you get to the camp. But you got to do it once or twice, okay? And then you go. You go. No, I'm not going to self-drive. There's a lot of folks who self-drive, particularly in South Africa.
Yeah.
You really, really, really have got to know what you're doing. But what you miss is in Kenya, if you go to Kenya, the safari companies are all got their own radio channels.
Yep.
And they're all talking all the time on the radio. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? The little white vans, who I hate, won't ever be allowed a license to those radio channels. So Star Safaris and the other people who run the safari vehicles, they're all talking all the time. And they get you to the sightings, okay? In South Africa, in the Kruger, there's none of that. So a rumor on the cell phones, a rumor, there's a lion. Yeah, it's 400 yards away, and you can see its butt. But there's 50 cars on the road.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have in certain places, you have to go where the guides know where to go. And again, we got a sighting of a lifetime at the the Paul Kruger Pan just by the Kruger Gate. And Stu, our guide, said, well, there's normally this old lady leopard who stays in a ditch just behind the water hole, a water hole. And she's sometimes there. So we went and we waited and we waited. And she was there. And she waited. So we were there for 5 hours waiting for her to get lunch. And we thought, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it did. For 2 seconds, she pounced, jumped, killed a baby impala right in front of us at about 60 yards, 70 yards.
Wow.
And that was almost a dry trip apart from that. Now, what do I mean by dry? I mean, I haven't seen big cat action in the park. I've seen lots of birds, lots of other animals, but I'm there to shoot cats. The private parks is, Sabi Sands, Mala Mala, my favorite, and others. They're great. They've got guides. They know what they're doing. You can see wild dogs and all of that. But it's fantastic, but you've got to be able to pay for it. I'm sorry, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. And where I am jealous, Jeff, of what's on your doorstep, Chris Smith, who's got ospreys in his garden, it feels like, and all you guys, and Chuck, I'm not jealous of your weather right now. I lived in the States in 2000 to 2005. I know what weather's like.
Yeah.
You have weather. We are about to receive a gift from America, a little storm. And by the time it gets to me, we don't get snow in London. Mm-hmm. It gets a bit damp. We get drizzled.
Yeah.
We don't get 6 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Night and minus 30 Fahrenheit, let alone whatever. Yeah, so there you go.
Are you in London, Andy?
Yeah, just southwest London, a place called Wimbledon. It has a little tennis tournament every year.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Little place, not much.
Yeah. And some casual tennis.
Yeah, but I don't go. I've been. I don't go. I watch it on the telly.
Yeah. I lived in Kentucky. I grew up in Kentucky, and everybody would always ask me about the Kentucky Derby. Do you go? No, we watch it on the TV. It's a nightmare to go. But yeah, same thing there.
When I got my 400, I went to the horse racing because it's live things moving.
Right.
That was the point.
Yeah.
I went to Sandown Park, and the Royal Artillery Company, as in one of our army regiments, it was their day. So you've got all the boys there in their nice suits and all of that, and we've got an artillery piece. But because of budget cuts, they only have one shot.
Better make it count, right?
Yeah, so I was there, and I took several hundred photos and just give them to the company.
Yeah.
We non-military people have to give back to our serving forces.
That's nice. That's nice, Andy.
And yours too, Chuck.
No, it's nice of you to say that because, yeah, you're right. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go.
There you go. Hey, I'm so glad you decided to jump in here. And yeah, I couldn't remember if it was you, Andy, or who had sent the email. I just saw the email and then lost it again, which is typical for me. But anyway, what am I trying to do here?
So, Mike, where's Connor Wingo? Mike Swanson. Where is Connor Wingo, if that's how you pronounce it?
Yep, Connor Wingo.
That's just the name of a dam
in the States.
In the States, yes. Yeah. I believe is it in Maryland?
Maryland, or
Delaware border. Delaware, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can do that. My pals are all on the East Coast, all in the Northern Virginia, Northern Carolina area. That's where I lived for the 5 years I was in the States. And I traveled a lot, but it was all on business, except for one golfing trip where I went to Pebble.
Oh, you had to go to Pebble.
You have to go to Pebble. You have to go to Pebble.
Well, it's kind of like coming to visit you. I mean, there are a few courses to choose from if you can arrange to go there.
Yeah, bit not far from me is Wentworth, Sunningdale, and there's a certain course we won't mention where you guys beat us, not far from me, but. Then you've got the whole of Scotland, and you got the whole of the northwest coast, and all the rest of it. Golf is great, but it takes time. But then so does photography. I mean, hey.
Well, everything does. Yeah. So there's James. James is out there at Conowingo all the time, and he's Darlington, Maryland, is where it's located.
Okay, it's on the list. So, Mike, I was in Abu Dhabi on a big project. I do project advisory. I used to. Mm-hmm. And when COVID hit, they Emiratized, meaning they gave my job to Emirati. Mm-hmm. So, and that's fine. You know, we are economic migrants at this point. We just go there to earn some money and have fun. And I don't make any money from photography.
Yay.
Be absolutely certain under any definition of professional that means, do you make the bulk of your money from photography? No. I spend the bulk of my money on photography.
That is how it is for most of us, I think.
Yeah. And that's you know, the worst thing to do as a retired person is to not have something to do.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest thing I miss is working. And when the phone rings to say, can you help me? Well, I'm going to go and help him. I will be unretired again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. I look at photography as my lifeline. If I didn't, I'm retired as well. And it's like, if I didn't have that, I would go totally insane. I mean, I have to get outside. I have to see nature. It doesn't matter what genre I'm shooting. I have to get out and do something. I can't stay in the house.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I don't know, but that's okay. I'll be right back, gentlemen. I got a call here. Let me go grab it. Don't burn the place down. Enjoy.
So, Jeff, where are you?
I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I know it. Good golfing around there, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's quite a few golf courses that have gone belly up and decided to just have houses built on them. There's more value in real estate right now for homes. They can't build enough homes down here. There's hardly any trees. All the trees are getting cut down. It's ridiculous.
That's terrible for habitat. But I went to Sumter, South Carolina, which is, I can't remember which airport we landed, but then we drove inland for like half a day. And we ended up at Sumter, South Carolina to do something. And that was Strom Thurmond territory at the time. He was still on the formaldehyde or whatever was keeping him alive. And hang on, I've lost some light here, but that's fine. And there we go.
I thought that guy was aiming for try to live to 150. I don't know. It was
Well,
ridiculous.
his supporters would have him that way, of course.
Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're in a bit of the dark here for the minute. These lights have just turned themselves off again. But you know, North Carolina, I know better. Well, better. Duck in particular, where these friends of mine have a beach house, as in a one on sticks. We used to go there a lot to build the burn to protect against the hurricanes as they go up the coast and dump on there and West Virginia or the Blue Ridge Mountains. If they
We
didn't
have
go,
a fair amount of waterfalls in North Carolina. I know I'm a member of the Carolina Nature's Photography Association, and they have a lot of trips up there where they organize going out for bear pictures, waterfall pictures, moose, that type of thing.
but you only have the baby bears there, you know, the ones that will just chew your leg off, as opposed to the bigger ones that will take everything apart, like the grizzlies.
Correct. Yeah. You could still get around with your with one leg, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how often do you get to go to Africa region?
So I haven't been back since 2017. I got a project that had me in Abu Dhabi full time from 2017 through to COVID. Absolute full time. I thought it was going to be 1 month. It turned out to be multiple years, and that was fine. When I get a project, I work at it, and that's what it took. We were on site in the western part of Abu Dhabi and working basically on my shift, a 4-day week, 3 days off. We did 60 hours in 4 days. You can work out the maths. That's 15 hours a day with an hour's travel each way. So it's fine. It was great, really great. And now what we were building is fully working and producing money, which is a good thing. And it's very environmentally friendly. It's not just burning carbon, which is good. I love that part of the world, by the way, except in the summer where it's horrible. 56 degrees centigrade, about 140 Fahrenheit, I think. Yeah, so you don't want to be put in jail, because what they'll do is have you cleaning the side of the roads in the heat.
Oh, jeez. I wouldn't last long.
Yeah. And I was in Qatar, not on the World Cup, but on the Metro. And now we've got the World Cup, and that country is doing well. It's another one of these countries that's trying to modernize. It's hard. It's difficult. It's all change. The Corvallis, no. I've been to, I worked in Northern Ireland for a bit, and I got the best ever golf lesson from somebody that looked like Rory McIlroy, but wasn't. Because he's young relatively. And I have to say to you, if you're a golfer or like the outdoors, the West Coast, the north of Ireland, the whole island of Ireland, however it's split, the west of Scotland and all of that, they're just wonderful places. Just don't expect to drive quickly, particularly if you're going from Dublin to Sligo. It'll take you a day. It doesn't look far on the map, but it's just how we go about things out there.
Now, is it hard if you're in Ireland? I knew someone that was a manager of a photo store when we had a photo store when I lived in Connecticut, and she went to Ireland and she got some beautiful pictures there. And she said the only thing she had trouble with was finding a place to be able to pull over and take a picture.
It's all single track. Well, it's not all, but there's a lot of single track roads.
Yeah,
with high hedges and stone. Just take your time. Come for a month. Don't come for a day.
Yeah.
Without saying that, these friends of mine from Northern Virginia did Scotland in 10 days. And then I picked them up in Edinburgh and took them out to see my niece, who's on the West Coast, as runs RSPB, Royal Society for, I call it prevention, it's protection of birds, a few sanctuaries.
Yeah.
And we spent 3 days with them, but they were tired. They'd done the the bus trip all around Scotland in 10 days. It's crazy what you can do. I get it. You're flying a long way, you're coming in. But when you go to Ireland, you've got to have time for what they call the crack, which is the fun. It typically involves a lot of alcohol. And the best thing is what they call a lock-in. A lock-in is you get locked in for something that might take 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
You don't get that out.
Wow.
That's where my niece learned to play the fiddle, the Celtic way.
Man, we got
yes, I do like bio Josses. I posted on various places, and I sent the link, I think, to Chuck. Here's some of my top favorite little channels, and I think the post was called "Why Not Support the quote honest channels?" Yes, it was digging at the Northrops, and yes, it was digging a little bit at Jared. I've still got one of his books and one of his T-shirts, because a lot of these channels are just pushing. This is, hey, here's how we get hits.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chelsea, the Z9's a little bit too heavy for you, but it's no reason to say the camera's bad. And sorry, Tony, the 800's too long for you. Then don't buy the lens.
Yeah.
Sorry, rant. Where's your rant, Jeff?
That's okay. Yeah, you know, rants are.
Well, you can rant. Chuck's been too calm lately, so we need somebody else to get it going.
So at some point, I was going to raise the fact that Chuck has got PTSD from my petulant child comment I made several months ago.
No, I am a petulant child. I agree with that. I can be for certain.
It's fine. But you know, yeah, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, and, you know, I just did a video talking about how YouTube can be so vile at times. And, but, you know, I did it so people will hold my feet to the fire. I mean, honestly, I want to know. That doesn't mean I'm not going to rant from time to time, because I like a good rant. So,
yeah. So for me, and most of us of our age, I would say this is, you can say what you like. I don't care.
Yeah.
I will listen. And if you're respectful, I will give your opinion some weight. But if you're just being a something that we're not allowed to say on your channel, right?
Thank you.
There are short words, right?
Yeah.
Wait, let's do like 4 letters. Starts with.
The first word starts with a D, and the second one has head in it. Right? Yeah. Or something, right?
Thank you.
Whatever the words that you want to use. If you're just being an idiot, if you're just getting a camera for free that you then sell, and you're all upset that you no longer make money, Northrop, right? Because you're selling gear somebody's given you, then don't expect it to continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now, I grew up with Poland and Northrop. They were useful to me at a point. And I'm sure there are people on their journey that do the same.
Yeah.
I just think they're better places to look now.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people will say that. They'll tell me, you know, that I learned a lot from them and different people. And I understand that, because I watched them too, you know, years ago. I say years ago, but, you know, it hadn't been too many years ago that I quit following them or watching them. And they may have done a lot of good, but I think there's a lot of competition in YouTube now. And I think everybody is trying everything they can sometimes just for the views. And it has a lot to do with the fact that YouTube has become their job. And, you know, and I understand that. Again, I'm not going to try to change Jared Poland. I'm not going to try to change Tony and Chelsea. They can do what they want. It's their channel, you know. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, what I try to tell people is, you don't have to go there. If you want to go, but you don't have to go there. If you really want to fight them, I mean, if it's that big a deal, then just quit watching. And, you know, that because that's what they're after. They want views. And again, it's their channel and they can do that.
Yeah,
So
just don't watch what you don't like, and problem solved. Just like nobody's forcing you to watch a certain show on TV. Change the channel.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's the point.
I'm not opposed to them. I don't agree sometimes when it just gets overboard on, the Nikon bashing and everything else. Although I've been accused of bashing Nikon, I don't bash the equipment, folks. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's all about the marketing for me. But am I going to make a difference in it? No, no. But I
So,
give other people that feel that way, that don't have a platform, a chance to vent.
so here's a subject area that we could get a bit warm on: marketing.
Yeah.
So, my understanding is, and it comes from the fact that I was a financial analyst and all of that,
Yeah.
Nikon was in bad shape, really bad shape.
Yeah.
And so they've had to make some really big cost savings. So what did that mean in the UK? NPS lost its training facility. It lost the Nikon school, was closed. But Rishi and Neil still are working there. They've lost a whole bunch of their infrastructure.
Yeah.
And okay, so now we have to go to people I've been using for a long time to get our stuff repaired, or we have to send our gear. I can't just drive 2 miles, which is what I used to do, to the repair center. And I'm pretty sure that when Nikon said we are changing the way we market and support the various geographies, what that meant was there's less free stuff, there's less stuff they can give away, and their marketing budgets were shrunk. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think they centralized a lot of what they do. So Nikon Japan decides what the marketing teams do. Even though there is some regional autonomy, I think if you watch the Nikon TV channel in Canada and even Nikon USA TV, it's all the same script almost. Although Chris Odinoki, or whatever, however you pronounce his name, in Nikon Canada does a really great job at this.
Yeah, he does.
So I don't believe that we're in a realm today. And you look at Richie. Richie went to Norway to see. I can't remember his name. He
Morton
took
Morton.
Yeah, he took the lens with it.
Yeah.
So we're no longer in a world where you get free stuff by right because you're an influencer or you're this or that or the other. Although Matt Irwin has a 600 on loan for a month.
Yeah.
Or had it. Okay. Which was amazing. Okay. But in Southeast Asia, he's got a presence. He's, if Nikon Australia, which is all part of that community, were able to get him a lens, and he's not a wildlife shooter, and he's done a dozen or so videos. Great. Yeah. But in Europe and in the US, I think that what's changed is there's more discipline in marketing. There's a lot more discipline on information, and there's a lot less stuff that they can just give out to people. And I think where I would take odds, Chuck, was when we attack the officers of the company, the staff of the company, when they don't have any options. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not their gift. It's not their gift anymore, if it ever was.
Yeah.
I think a Nikon rep, a salesman, knows nothing.
Yeah.
As a rule. My rep today was saying, "Oh, we don't know, and if we did, we'd have to sign an NDA." They're not even being given this stuff because we've seen it out of India and some other places where, oh, here's the Z9, we've got it, we know what it is. No, you don't. And why are you doing a comparison video of something you've just made up?
Yeah.
To get clicks. So I think the world over the last 3-5 years has changed a lot. I think the transition from DSLRs and changeable lenses. No, I sold it with 50 other things this year. 50 other F-mount items that I had sitting getting rusty. The 500. I think that impact of global sales on interchangeable lens cameras is just huge. Few industries have seen sales go to 1/10 and the companies survive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing now is a rebound. and it's coming because of video. It's coming because people.
Oh man, yeah. And I did a video 3 years ago talking about video in cameras, and I just feel like Nikon is full of old stodgy photographers. Me being old, so I can say it. That would be happy with a stills only camera from now on. But unfortunately, for a company to remain in business, video is the new stills, and you can't produce a camera without it, with any expectation that it's going to be a moneymaker for you. Yeah, they'll sell, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the money's not going to be in something like that. That would be a niche body that they would build, like the DF. So I say that, and when you said video, and I caught a lot of flack back then about that, man, big time. About, I don't care if a camera ever has video in it and whatever, and nobody wanted to understand that this is why you get the cameras you want right now, is because this is what sells, and they have to go along with. I say all that. I want to segue into, because you talked about the difficulties Nikon has experienced here over the last few years. Maybe it was a few years building up to it as well. But my marketing piece, or my marketing issue is, it's not just marketing, but it's in releasing what they release, when they release. And I just still can't understand the release of all the super telephotos. And don't get me wrong, they are fantastic lenses. Would I have one if I could buy it? Yes, I absolutely would. But there are so many lenses that are going to outsell that leaps and bounds. And just in quantity is going to be more finances for the company. And I don't understand it. And what do you think
Just
about
want to
the
say goodbye to
strategy?
James. James is taking off. If he
Oh,
hasn't
James,
already.
sorry, buddy.
So, have a good one.
So firstly, let me have my little rant, which has nothing to do with Nikon. You see this?
Yeah.
With the taped over top.
Yeah.
This is the X2D 100 megapixel camera.
Hasselblad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that? That's the X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This does not have video.
Yeah.
Yeah. No video. Yeah.
I don't want video.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
And the fact a GFX can shoot video, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I've got a cell phone. It shoots wonderful video. If I want to shoot a video, that's one of my guitars, by the way. I shoot.
Nice. Yeah.
Right? Why would I want a stupid downsampled from 100 megapixel to some nasty, horrible crop like the GFX does? Not to be nasty about Fuji, who I like.
Yeah.
So, and Leica got beaten up for taking video out of a camera range.
Yeah.
Normally, I see is on your Leica man.
Yeah.
I love Leica. I just can't shoot manual focus. I'm sorry, I don't have the eyesight.
Right.
So don't put video in this, please. But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen for the same reason. They have a focus group and somebody does it. So as to Nikon, if you are where Nikon were with, I'll reach behind me, but it's too far, with a Z7, Z6, Z7 II, Z6 II, where the difference was meaningful and measurably different and better, and are effectively written off by people because it's a C word, poorly performing, not good enough, crap, the worst ever.
Yeah.
It's not. You can use it, and I'm sure some of you are shooting on 6s and 7s now.
Yep.
Video. I just happen to be using a Logitech desk camera because I couldn't find the lead. It's fine. Now, would people buy an 85 1.2? Yes. If it's $3,000, less. If it's $2,000, less. Would people buy a 200 to 600 if it was an S line quality lens at $3,500, $4,000? No, not that many. If it comes out at $1,500, is not an S line. It's like the Sony or the Tamron. Yes, people will buy it, but they've got to live with the fact you're not going to take the shots that I might get with this thing.
Right.
Okay? You're not going. You just
Right.
don't have the light. But then you haven't wasted the price of a car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not a nice car, a car.
Yeah. A used car.
No. I'm looking for not a Bentley. Right? So we don't know as consumers anything about Nikon's supply chain problems, which are real. The fact that China today or yesterday has eased up on the COVID restrictions that has them turning off cities when they get to a COVID problem, and all those components that come from China. Ignore where the manufacturing is, it's where the components come from. I still believe that I'm looking for a small Nikon lens, but I happen to have a Hazy lens. In here are chips. This is a Hasselblad X120 macro. It's one of my favorite. Let's see how heavy it is. It's got a leaf shutter in it, all the rest. It's got chips in it. I could have all the glass made. I could have the bodies made. I could have the rest of it made. But if I didn't have that one chip, I don't have a product. And if you listen to Seth's mini rant live feed where he goes through all the different things, he says he believes the Z9 little one, the Z8 will be out in the first quarter, but he thinks Nikon can't make enough stock for a launch. They just haven't been able to. So you said it a year, I think, for a 600mm. I don't know. I know it's not in a day.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they're waiting for that component, right? So the last thing any of these companies want at a mid-tier product is not to be able to have 100,000 units. If that's their launch number, we need 100,000 units of a Z6 III before we launch, or maybe 200,000 units. They've got to build that stock and get it out there.
Yeah.
If a Z8 comes as a without the grip version of that, okay, how many units do you think they need for launch so that the world doesn't go crazy because we haven't got any? If it's true that there's one of these per big dealer, and I got the one that a certain company may have had, per country, per region. So let's say 50 were in the USA. Okay. And 200 people want it. You've got 150 people all irritated for a year. Well, okay.
Yeah, or more, depending on how many a year they can make.
Yeah.
Well, so this is the dilemma, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the Z9, there's a guy in Australia who I can't remember, but he seems to track serial numbers on this.
Yeah.
He thinks 50,000 of these have been made and issued. 50,000. That's more than the D3 sold in the first 2 years, right? So I think I understand what Nikon are doing with this. This is a completely different sort of camera. Shutterless, 8K video, all the rest of all of that. It's new and has got some AF issues. Okay. I didn't miss any shots yesterday that I didn't have other shots I could use, right?
Yeah.
Out of my 4,000. And give people time to get to work on these things. Don't decide the company is bust. It isn't. It's doing well now, right? Because they've diversified, they've bought new things, but not in the optics line. They've done deals with Profoto and other lighting companies, which is why I don't care if Nikon ever make another speed light.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to do a deal, I think, with Godox. They're going to do it with the quality, sorry to use the word, the quality companies. Red lawsuit, I don't care.
I don't either.
Because that patent's only got a short while left to run. And if we get a firmware update that takes 8K out of this, I use it rarely. Doesn't bother me. Depends what would have to come out. In the end of the day, Nikon will pay them something, if at all. But if you look at Nikon, we're in the naughty. We're on the naughty step because we've got no products that anybody rates. And then all of a sudden I've got that ready to go. What are you going to do? You launch it. You launch it with certain features turned off that you turn on with version 2. You improve massively with version 3. No matter what certain people are saying, it still grabs focus. I could show you images of a Falcon at 16 meters doing 200 miles an hour that are perfectly in focus, full frame, and I'm hand holding a 600 mil.
Yeah.
I could do that. I'm amazed I did it yesterday. Right? Autofocus bad? Are you joking? Seriously?
I think that's what's spurring a lot of controversy now is the fact that, and you talked about the Z6, Z6 II, Z7, Z7 II, good cameras. I agree, but with all the technology that's out right now, and yes, then here I go with the petulant child, the petulant child thing.
Yeah.
I'm streaming right now on my Z6, and it's fantastic. And I didn't have a problem with the video in anything that Nikon was doing with the mirrorless cameras. I think it's been fantastic. It's on par and better than some. It's on par with some, better than others in the video realm. And I think they proved that when the Z9 came out, because Nikon just opened the door and said, let's go all in. I think that's fantastic. But with this technology, there are people that are looking for this technology because that will change the Z6 line. It will change the Z7 line considerably. And that's what everybody's looking for. And the Z8, well, we don't need to go into that. There's so much speculation there. I mean, I know what I think and what everybody else thinks, but now we're left to what did we wait to see what it actually is.
But
I make 200,000 units off to sell at launch.
Yeah.
200,000 units.
I would agree with you. And, if the Z9 has sold 50,000 as speculated by, looking at serial numbers, and I'm sure he's done a thorough job to get as close as he can to it. The Z9 is an anomaly in the flagship line.
Well, it's a flagship.
Well,
that's the anomaly.
But no. What I mean is in the flagship models from beginning to now, it's an anomaly because it brought so much technology at a time when people, and this is the other thing. Yeah, we are in hard times, but there seem to be plenty of people that have cash or money to be able to buy things like this. And the price point, there were a lot of things that really put this camera on the map for a flagship for Nikon. I mean, $1,000 cheaper than anything that's older. Yeah. And when everybody was speculating it would be $7,000 to even possibly $8,000. So this camera has sold abnormally high for a Nikon flagship camera. And that's good. That's a good thing. Sure. That's a good thing. Yeah. But then again, there are people that, either couldn't afford it. I think there are people that pushed their budgets because it was just out of reach, but they made it, they stretched it to make it to pick up.
That was me. I stretched it big time.
It was one of those things with all the technology in it. You thought, man, I can't pass this up. I'll throw an extra $1,000 at what my budget was and pick this camera up, or extra, even $1,500. So all that's good. But then again, we're back to, and I want to add one more thing in here, and I'll let you guys chew it up. My other complaint was that I didn't feel, and I still don't feel that they're completely doing it, but they weren't courting a younger audience, because that is the future of any brand, of any product. You can't build you don't build a business on just hope. You have to have something there to believe in and carry on or whatever. So anyway, these were some of my main concerns and my main complaints with Nikon. And then Nikon set me off, as you remember, Andy, if you were around back then, on the MPS thing. That aggravated me to no end. Not that NPS had priority, but they had priority for a month. and put everybody behind. So, an NPS member who hadn't even heard about it, maybe they're one of those people that don't even follow the news or YouTube or anything like that, but got wind of, oh, by the way, the new Z9 is out and you have up until 30 days from now to decide whether you want it, and push more people behind. And I think that the NPS membership probably quadrupled back in November, December, January. But
Well,
anyway,
their applications did anyway. How many got approved? I don't know.
yeah. So anyway, I just throw all that out there. That was my rants really, and things that went on. And again, I don't want some of the things that I'm ranting about. I'm not going to buy the 2 to 600. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Sure.
But I know, because I receive a lot of emails and comments about, there are so many people out there that want it. And maybe I'm stupid, but I tried to become their voice as well. But I agreed with them, but I know we can't have everything we want. But then again, if you never say anything, if you do nothing, that's what you get, is nothing. So there you have it.
So there's a lot in there's a lot in that I just want to break down a tiny bit.
Yeah.
One of our understanding challenges is, what did Nikon mean in their medium-term financial forecast, where they said they're going to focus on this? And they didn't say not, but they implied not this.
Right.
So the implication of not this was, we would not sell any sub-$1,000 cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would not sell any, I have to use the word, crappy, cheap stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our target market is pros and prosumers, what in my latest rant I call professional-like users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to my blog.
High level gear.
Yeah. Go to my blog if you want to have the real language. Okay. The stuff Chuck can't have. It's on my website. I'm a son of a builder. Okay. We learned to swear before we learned to do everything. So you have to say that actually coming out with a definitely pro level user required body was the right move.
Right.
Absolutely. If you're going to make a statement, you don't come out with something cheap and what's called a me too.
I agree.
Right? You come out with something that's different. Taking the shutter out was profound.
Yep.
Absolutely profound. We don't have what's called a global shutter. Canon apparently is working on one. Good luck. Like to see the technology. But for now, this is the only one that does that. Okay. Well, that doesn't have a shutter. The shutter's in here. Oops. It's in the lens.
Yep. Leaf shutter. Yep.
It's a leaf shutter. This has got a really slow read. It's faster than the old one, but it's nothing compared to this. So the technology that came with this, the stack sensor, the BSI, and all of that stuff is profound. And the fact that the younger voices in Nikon have been listened to enough to bet the optical divisions or the consumer products divisions money on this tells me, Chuck, I don't agree with your opening statement, which is it's run by old people. Old people, not meaning age, meaning people. Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that you and I might well not be the target, and it's why I don't like the DP review worst camera of the year crap. Crud around the Z30, and I gave them this feedback. You people are too old. You want an EVF, and that's why you voted it down, and it doesn't need one. We like to do this. You don't need one. I do. I couldn't shoot without one, although I do take pictures with this, right?
Now,
I believe what they're doing in the creative space, I simply can't understand what this whole creative thing is they're doing, and this virtual thingy and the other thingy.
Yep.
About. And it's like half the management report is all on this good stuff, because I'm not 20 or 30 or 40,
Right.
50 or some other number. It's the fact I look young. I don't have wrinkles. So I believe that the optical division, that is where we get our stuff, is moving quickly. This is a blue time code jammer. It talks to this. It talks to a field recorder. I can have 5 of these all in time code sync, and I can have recorders in time code sync now in firmware 3. Somebody is listening to the needs of filmmakers and studio makers and production companies in Nikon at a place you'd never think, wow, we asked for this because we worked out that if Nikon is going to be a cinema camera or a film camera used by professionals, you've got to be able to have manual lenses, but most importantly, you've got to be able to talk to a timecode source. Okay, so they're listening. I think they're really clever. We're just dumbasses, but for thinking we need an old camera that looks like that. And sorry, guys at DP Review TV, you're just being a little stupid. Okay, what matters is, will the Z30 sell? And the answer seems to be it's doing okay. It's not doing gangbusters because it's moving to a crowded market.
Yeah,
there's loads of cameras that it can compete with. Do we need a Z500? I see it, an APS-C Z9. Well, what are you looking for, guys? Are you looking for the built-in 1.5 crop? Function 3 now, having talked at length to Steve and others, function 3 on my camera does DX FX switch. Instantly, I'm at 19 megapixels. I've got a DX crop. I think that will come with all the new generation. So if people are saying they want an APS-C camera, are you actually talking about a 30 megapixel APS-C? Like is it R7?
Yeah.
If you're talking about that, well, there'll cost to that too. Okay. You keep ramming more and more pixels in an ever small space. Hello, Mr. Sony wants to put 100 in here, right? An ever smaller space. You can only shoot it wide open with a big glass because of diffraction. You lose the low light capability, right? It's that. So now on this camera, I've got subject detection off on that button, on off as my recall shooting hold, and that's my DX crop. My problem, as I did in Richmond Park when I was shooting red deer fighting on Friday, I forgot I got DX crop on, even though it's flashing at me DX crop. I'm too interested. I was too close, right?
Yeah.
So if we can build in at 20 megapixels DX APS-C in a full frame camera that I can use for studio portraits, landscapes, and also to zoom in, effectively zoom in, because that's all you're doing. Why do I need a camera that's APS-C?
Well, you don't, but I think part of the argument too is the cost. With this, we would expect that it to be, I'm not saying me, I don't know how to speculate a price for it, but that it would be cheaper and therefore more people would buy into it. And just so everybody knows, I am not against Nikon building a DX camera, a pro body DX camera. My argument has been it's just not the right time. There's too much yet to come for Nikon to stop. I think the full frame lineup, not all 3 bodies, and I say 3, Z6, Z7, Z8. I don't think we need all those right off the bat, but I think it would, in my opinion, there are more people waiting. We did a poll. Actually, Vahagen did a poll and it came out pretty good. It was a pretty good slice of his his folks, and it was predominantly not predominantly, it was 80% for full frame next. And yeah, there are people, 20% want the DX body next. And to me, it's a no brainer, but I'm sure Andy's going to talk me out of that here real quick.
No. I recommend that people watch Seth's live feed of a couple of days ago, where he went through all of the different systems, and he spent a fair bit of time on this subject. And I gave him a comment, I think, on that feed, and it's the comment I've held to. I don't see the market for it. I see some birders, some, not that many, who think of their D500 and say, yeah, that gave me a 1.5 times crop, and that was what I want. I don't see the space saving, the size saving, or the weight saving compared to a Z7, sorry, in a pro level APS-C. So if you've got the D500, it was bigger than the Z50, heavier. And certainly when you whack a grip on it, it was even heavier. And so if I look at the world of sales, I think there's a small community of people, and they're very vocal, and I'm with them to this extent. But I don't see a priority for a D500. So I've moved my position. I don't see a D500 replacement as a priority.
No, I agree. I don't think it's the right moment. It may be next year. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, I think that they're a bigger fish to fry in the Nikon camp. And I don't want anybody to take that as Chuck's against a DX Pro body. I am not.
No.
We wouldn't even know what it is if it hadn't been for the D500. Yeah. You know.
So, I mean, Seth also says you'd be surprised, but the Z5 is selling like crazy. This terrible entry-level camera for, is it $1,000 or less? It's selling, right? Adorama, sell loads of it. Why? Because it's a nice way into the system. Okay.
Yeah.
So the what's needed, and you know, I might not agree, Chuck, with your sheet that says this, but here
come on, Andy, you got to agree with me.
I've got my own. We all have, because we've got nothing better to do.
Right.
Yes, all these cameras, Z5 update, Z6 III, Z7 III, Z8, Z50 update, whatever. They've got to match to their market. So if the Z8 came out as a cut down one of these, but was $4,000, because that's the price point for a stack sensor with all of the technology.
Yep. They're not going to buy it. No one's going to buy it.
I don't agree. I think people will buy it, but maybe not the people who are shouting loudly today.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you have a budget of $2,000, what technology do you think that will buy? Okay. You know, the biggest thing I like about this camera, other than the 100 megapixels and the 16-bit, it has a 1 terabyte SSD inside it. I don't need to put a card in here. I don't, in fact, most of the time. I love that. I wish it was an option for this one.
You just have to hope it doesn't break, because then you're going to have no camera.
Jeff?
Other than your CFEB card. I know you got a CFEB card.
I have many, because I wasted my money, and I've upgraded.
I know, but I wouldn't want to have to send the camera back. I'd rather just buy 2 of those.
So the point is, if they do this, what they'll have is a screw-in module. Okay? They will have a module that's replaceable. They have to.
Well, if they do it that way, it makes sense. Plug and play would make sense.
Yeah.
But they've got to keep the weatherproofing.
Yeah.
People don't like this little catch. Why? Have you ever had a problem, the door flipping open and your camera filling with water? No, because it's weatherproof when it's locked.
Yeah.
Weatherproof, not waterproof. Don't throw it in the water to see it float. It won't.
Yeah.
So for all of these, I think where people, and this is what nastily one might call the nastily, which means I'm going to say something. People want, but their arm only goes this far. The arm of this thing, it's called a wallet. Okay.
Yeah.
Your wallet is restrained by your commitments in life, where you are in your life's journey. Have you paid for your house, your car, your whatever, and your willingness to waste money.
Yeah.
Stuff. If you don't need more frames per second, more resolution than 24 and 5, buy the Z5. Shoots great videos. Okay. If you want this, expect to have, but without that, and I think you alluded to it earlier in your intro, it cannot support what that camera can support.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Thermally or whatever. Right.
Yeah. There are going to be limitations. Yeah. Based on size.
It'll have that. Whether it goes to a flippy, I don't care.
Yeah.
I haven't broken this yet, and I break cameras. I broke my D5. I dropped it out of a safari vehicle with a 400, and it didn't matter how many screws were holding the mount on. That ripped off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anybody actually broken one of these 4-screw mounts where screw goes into the body, not some other frame yet?
I don't know what broke.
Well,
but,
Roy did.
Roy broke
did.
his mount. Yeah.
Yeah.
Broke, or it just got a little loose.
I don't know.
Broke. I think he had $600 US to get it fixed. He didn't get it back yet.
Well, that's user abuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like me dropping my D5 and 400 mil out of a safari window. Actually, I didn't drop it. I just put it there for a second. I went like that, and my movement, it fell out. So for all of these things, let's just get a little real. All the cameras we've got work. They all focus. They might not get a Peregrine, Lana, Falcon hybrid at 200 miles an hour, 16 meters away, right? Which I tracked, and I ran out of buffer, which was crazy. But not. I had a few passes till I got it. But not everybody wants or needs that. I shall stop saying need.
Okay, so yeah, that's the other part of this. There is a want part to it too, and guys, I'd love to go into that, but I've got my stepson's coming by. I've got to download all the video that I did this morning, and I hate to go because it's turned into such a great chat. And Andy, I thank you for joining us, and you got to become a regular. When you have the opportunity, you'll have to jump in with us like everybody else. And again, I'm going to say goodbye here in just a second, let you guys say goodbye. But again, if you enjoy these kind of chats, if you enjoyed today, give Andy a like. Okay, it might be for me, but hey, give us a like. It motivates me, as I said before. If you enjoy the chats that we have and you're constantly in here, you might consider a subscription too. And I'm going to quit saying. I got to say it because Mama listens to me, and she's more worried about it than I am. God bless her. So anyway, Andre's saying we need you back, Andy, and I agree with that. You need to be, jump in here with us whenever you can. We may not always agree, but you know what? That's the great thing over here is we can talk about it. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can talk about it. And I hope everybody else enjoys that. Jeffrey, thank you for being in here. I appreciate you being in here today, and everybody that's been in the chat. It's been fantastic. Thank you guys for keeping it civil as always. I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to pass it to Mr. Andy to say goodbye before we get out of here. Andy.
So thank you, Chuck, for the opportunity, and thank you for the Saturday night show of my little clashing stag and the nice comment. That was well done. And I'd love to continue. I have to keep control of my language. You guys are sensitive. We call it diversity, but of course, diversity has rules.
Yeah.
Apparently, we can't be that diverse.
Yeah. No. You're right. No, the language thing, I'll take that. It's not anybody else. That's just me. But anyway,
I'm playing with you. It's cool.
I know.
Humor. But thank you, and it's been good fun. And just give me a shout, and I will. I can't do your It's 2 a.m., guys. Even I have to sleep for your Saturday night. But this is a good time for us.
No, I get it. And that's the reason for the 2 streams also, Andy, is it allows different people to be able to catch a live stream. So, but I do appreciate you. I know this is my Europe day is always Wednesday because it's evening or late evening some places, obviously. But thanks again for joining us. And you gotta come back, man. You got to keep doing this with us.
Yeah, and you can read my rubbish on my rubbish website, andymillerphoto.co.uk.
Okay.
And like I said and I do recommend, by the way, Steve's Backcountry Gallery forums. Steve is a wonderful resource you guys have got over there. But then I follow Art and 100 other people. As again, you'll see my blog entry, and yes, Chuck, it's very long because people are giving you more suggestions. There's more people out there. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, man. I'm so happy you joined us, at least for the first time. I'm sorry I lost your email before. Again, anybody that would like to be part of this and you can frequent the show, be in the panel. I don't know what to call it because everybody's live, whether you're in the chat or on the panel. So anyway, thanks again, Andy and Jeffrey. Pass it to you before I get off here and get busy, go to work.
Well, thank everybody in the chat for joining today. You're always great, everybody. Andy, a pleasure to meet you virtually and enjoy your commentary. Spot on. Really nice meeting you. And I tell everybody, as always, get out there and shoot, man. You don't get any better sitting on the couch watching TV. So
yeah,
have a good. We'll see you guys Saturday.
And so all you guys know, Andy's the one that rakes me over the coals in emails. And I can't say he's wrong. And I like it because like so many of you guys that are in the stream or, join the stream, I need that. I really do. So anyway, that said, great show today. I appreciate you guys. And all right. To all the folks in the chat, thank you very much. And we'll be live again Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time for those that can join. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.